for the audience, it will be super casual. Welcome, friends, to the final episode of New Game Plus. Technically, I guess it'd be episode 57 or something. I just want to front end on the incredibly small chance you somehow have not heard that Atomic has left my really, Gleemo? You're gonna do that now? You're just gonna resub right now with a message to yourself? Well, too bad for you. On this overlay, I hadn't put.
You don't have stream elements.
I didn't put predator alerts at the top, so it was hidden behind our faces. Where was I? Atomic. Yes, Atomic is no longer partnering with me on anything. I made a video to explain why. I just want to do a quick double explanation. I don't want you to think that during my, let's call it, parting argument with Atomic, I somehow was the bigger man. Some people have come to the impression that during my final argument with Atomic, somehow I acted like a completely mature adult. That was not true, and it feels really petty to say he started it. But I also have in the past very clearly told him if he ever acted like that again, we were done. And so when we were done afterwards, he shocked Pikachu faced me when I was like, hey, remember when I said don't act like this ever again? And then you did. So that's where it is. It is what it is. Atomic and I are done. Do Game Plus is unfortunately ending. Dave, who has insisted that I no longer call him Henley, is completely shook up over this.
I don't know, man. Like, this is one of the things where it's like,
it's a long campaign. It's tough to say goodbye.
You don't realize how long you sit in here and you just think about this stuff. Like, I mean, I know Spooty has a fucking humongous backstory that he's never divulged.
I've seen his epilogue. It's pretty good.
I did share my epilogue with Arthur.
Eat your heart out, Tolkien. Spooty's got like 8 custom languages.
He wrote them while cooking a rabbit lying on the grass in his backyard over 40 days.
Finley Longbottom is Tom Bombadil.
So, I mean, when Arthur sort of told us about what had happened and all this stuff, and the first news that we heard was that the show was effective immediately, shot in the knees, which, I mean, we talked about the possibilities of like the reality of what the story is, and the reality was that Atomic was intrinsically and forever tied into the story. I mean, hypothetically, narrative wise, and I saw this come up a bunch in conversations and all that sort of stuff. Yes, you could theoretically just be like, hey, I'm the new Atomic. Whoop, I just transferred into a new body and this is me now. Like sure, you could do that, but that's not the spirit of what this game is. The spirit is very much tied into like the emotional growth of all these characters. And I asked if we could do this because I wanted some closure, and I'm sure everyone else does as well. And honestly, like I haven't had time to sit down and write like the epic narrative.
That's fine.
That probably everyone else has. Well, I'm more interested in.
I wouldn't say Finley's is an epic narrative. No, it is very funny.
It's just 1 page long.
Okay. I haven't written anything down because this week has been batshit crazy.
Yes, it has for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I do like the reality of this game is we've been playing it for so long. I'm sure we all already have in our mind's eye exactly what our characters would do. And I know for a fact that Kelly got to a very interesting stage of her character, literally the last time we played. And honestly, I'm just kind of sitting here and just being like, man, what I wouldn't give to follow through with this and just see where it goes. But
Kelly joined the band Incubus, you know?
Exactly. And now we'll never know, but at least we have.
Well, we can know.
This.
So one final thing to clear up before we start the questions. You might notice that there's another face among us, Gleemo, for whom Gleemo of the Western Gate was named. he is joining us because he will be joining us next week when we privately. I might send it direct to Patreon. I'm not sure yet. I want to talk to everybody before the episode before we do that. But including Spootnik's wife and Gleemo, we will be doing a 5-player game of Cyberpunk 2020. If everyone can deal with the system, which not everyone may, it is comprehensive. Called Cyberpunk 2020 plus.
Really?
Yeah,
a
so
coding joke?
Yes, it is a coding joke. It's also a New Game Plus joke because it's like New Game Plus, but with an extra plus for the next campaign.
I was gonna say we're all playing our current characters in Cyberpunk.
Oh, it's like the theory that Ciri from The Witcher visited the Cyberpunk universe.
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing a normal human, but with heavy body modifications. It's gonna be nuts. No, but I mean, Cyberpunk is great, but holy crap, if we're playing the base game, and I've sort of helped Arthur a little bit by looking into the sheet functionality on Cyberpunk, and I tell you what, the only reason that stuff is looking real good these days is because of that fucking game update. Like, when we did Night City, it was just like, oh yeah, here's this thing I made. It was literally shit.
Yeah, the new character sheet doesn't look like garbage, and the rolls pretty well.
Yeah,
all the macros work pretty well, so it's like
yes. It takes a little bit to wrap your head around, but honestly, you can get the character sheet working in about 15 to 20 minutes. And after that, you just press a button and it does everything for you.
And the fact that it's like condensed, because the last sheet was like, hey, here's literally every single skill in the game, which is like 120 skills, and you maybe used 5.
I just say, Dave, I need help, and he's like, all right, mate, let me get in you.
That's not what Dave sounds like quick. Remotely.
That was my
and then
wow.
You know, Spoody will ask me. Spoody will come to me and say, "Oh, Dave, I need your help because I can't do it." And then I'm like, "All right, mate."
Was that your American accent? Is that what you think we sound like?
That's my Spoody.
I don't have to worry about anything.
That was like a vacuum cleaner that wasn't like fully sealed.
The only thing, Oh, Rick. No, the only thing I'll say about Cyberpunk is it requires player investment like no other tabletop game, because there are things like, okay, how many layers of armor do you want to have? What cybernetics do you want to have? What weapons do you want to have? What does your character look like? What does your character feel like? Like, what skills do you have? Like, all these sorts of things require a little bit more investment than just following along with, like, I'm a level 5 rogue. You know, that means I have all this stuff and nothing else. In Cyberpunk, it's like, outside of your character class skill, all the characters are the same. That's just it. Like, if you're a rocker boy, you get one unique skill and that's it. And then the rest of you is the same.
It's like how the food is all gray paste in different forms.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Not in my universe. Listen, let me tell you. I will tell you about the different
green paste too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's only for the peasant food. Let's get up to the cyber food that's made with nanoparticles. I'll get into that, brother. That stuff costs more than your entire year's paycheck. You know,
so is Scrapple in the Cyberpunk
absolutely,
2020 universe?
Jesus.
Absolutely.
Wow.
What could listen? When you need to use the whole pig, the Scrapple's what's left over when you use the whole pig. I actually had Scrapple this morning.
This hot
I'm very jealous.
This hot dog is made of, as seen on TV commercials, ground up into a paste.
One final thing before we get started. I was thinking about Spootnik yesterday because I was reading an article about how the Navy tear gases all of its recruits. They put them all in a chamber and tear gas them all together. And they do it by they test to see who can get their gas masks on in time and properly fitted, and then even if you do, they make you take it off and recite your like name and unit code.
So when I did it, now granted, this was now 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But when I did it, it was CS gas, so tear gas.
Yep.
And they have like a hot plate in the room.
And they put pebbles of it on there.
Yeah.
Yep, that's still current. That is how they do it.
But when I did it, it was more an exercise to give you trust in your gas mask that it worked. So you went into the room wearing your gas mask, and then they set the gas off, and you waited until it looked like a Cheech and Chong movie inside this room. And then they were like, all right, take your gas mask off. Because you're breathing fine. And you're like, oh, okay, well, this gas must not be that bad. You take your mask off, and it feels like, man, how can I describe how tear gas feels?
Intense pain on every part of your exposed body?
Imagine
pepper in your nose.
Yeah, imagine snorting Carolina Reaper hot sauce up both nostrils while you're drinking it at the same time and rubbing it in your eyeballs. You're almost there.
I think the eyeball thing would be the worst for me.
Yeah, your eyes hurt, but it's funny too because you're going in there, and of course, especially in boot camp, Jesus. But there's all these guys like, oh, this isn't gonna bother me. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. And they take their masks off, and they're the first motherfuckers that are like, just snot running out of their noses and just crying and let me out, man. They get outside, they're just
the Indiana Jones gif of that dude's face melting.
Oh yeah. Seriously. And it's like, oh, and that's the point in boot camp. You're about halfway, if I remember right, you're about halfway through boot camp when you do that. And that's the point in time where you realize that the people who are being bullies and try to be tough and fucking with you are just the biggest wusses in the world, and you have nothing to worry about anymore. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I would say the drill instructor is the real bully you need to be worried about.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing is too, in the Navy we call it boat crud, but you also got it in boot camp. Basically, you shove people together, as we've all learned in this pandemic, and everybody just gets sick, right? And it's kind of like a nasty cold. Well, the tear gas just empties those sinuses out, and I felt great. The rest of the last 4 or 5 weeks I was there, I was like, I feel great. I'm not sick. I'm not clogged up. This is amazing. But yeah. Yep, good old tear gas. That was
sinuses are plugged. Get in the bathroom. Pop.
Pretty shitty. Wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I am now taking questions from any of my cast members, and I will take limited questions from the audience. I say limited because I played Winter's Edge and Winter's Edge 2, and I know that people will ask for weird things like, can you have sex with a dragon, and what are the mating capabilities of different races? Which races can have babies with each other? So I'm taking limited questions from the audience. If your question would physically pay me to answer, please don't ask it.
Ever seen the movie Inception, AP?
Yes, I have.
You just set yourself up for failure there.
I know. But I feel like if I warn people ahead of time and they still do it, no one will question when I ban them.
So, I mean, my question, I feel, is not necessarily... it feels like the big question, so I should probably not ask it first. Maybe
okay, yeah, like if you listen, I would say wait till the end if you have to ask how does it all end questions.
Well, but it's not even how does it all end. It's more of so we can save it to the end, but my question is basically going to be, what was our character's place in the universe as far as it relates to what type of gods we were and what was
That's a great question, and I can answer that.
But I was to say,
are you ready to have that answer?
I might suggest.
I mean, I'm ready for it too, but I'm saying because it's kind of the question, maybe we should save that until.
Yeah, my suggestion in formatting here, we each go around, do our backstory shit, kind of a back and forth with AP. What's bullshit and what's kind of like, hey, maybe connected, and then AP can hit us with the full on, the whole ass story here. Anyone disagree?
No?
Yeah, okay. Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Well, I am here to answer most questions. I don't have the answers to everything, but I have the answers to a lot that we never touched on. So
yeah,
please feel free. What do you got? Who wants to start?
well, Finley's the most, or Spootnik's the most prepared, so.
Oh, you want to hear the epilogue that I wrote?
Yeah, and no one fucking knows who Finley the fuck Longbottom is.
I mean no, I won't spoil anything.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go ahead and read this. This is maybe a 2-minute read. So here we go. So Finley heard the question in his mind almost constantly. He saw the graffiti that had been written in tucked away spaces, even when he closed his eyes. It was a question that had haunted him for his whole life. No matter what timeline he was stuck in, that question seemed to follow him, always relentless, always present. Who is Finley Longbottom? Flashes of past memories would play through his mind whenever the question came to him. His mother cradling him after a nasty fall. His father forcing him to stand up straight and be a man. Shadows of a now confused and distant past. Work never came naturally to him either. It was one of the failings in his life that he always tried to escape. He would hide his laziness with vain attempts at humor or trying to start false movements, large or small. Anything to distract him from the opportunities that he had let pass by. Adventuring seemed to suit him, he thought, once he hit his late adolescent years. He realized that the ability to always be on the move and not form real, true relationships with people was the way to go. Memories, again, came crashing through. His first owl bear, coming so close to death. Cutting down scores of the undead seemed like worthy practice. And then, darkness. Such a large part of his memory, seemingly lost forever. The mountain cave, waking from slumber, seeing unfamiliar yet somehow recognizable others around him. This only served to confuse him more, sent him running to his old defenses of wackiness and humor. Meanwhile, denial and doubt racked his brain. He and the others learned many things on their travels outside of that mountain cave. Were they gods? Finley thought no. Were they heroes? Laughable. The rain once again began to fall as Finley walked alone down the rural wooded path, pools of water forming on either side of him, threatening to dampen his socks. His reflection in one of those puddles caught his eye, and he peered into the abyss. He looked at the lines on his face, his sad, downturned eyes, and the wrinkles beginning to poke out from the corners of his mouth. He searched his reflection for an answer, asking that same age-old question. Who is Finley Longbottom? Wouldn't you like to know? It seemed the reflection replied. And so he turned away, beginning his final journey, his last true quest. And that's how Finley's story ends.
Oh.
We never did learn who Finley.
Neither did he.
I like the idea that your mother's holding you. It's just like, who is Finley Longbottom?
My name is Finley. Who? Yeah.
Star-Lord,
on, man.
Legendary outlaw.
Well, I mean, Drumurboy, you got any?
What if we have questions? Can we ask questions of each other?
Sure.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean the other person has to answer, but yeah.
True. Yeah. Of course. What would you think the outcome would be for Finley had we killed the gods, and conversely, had we killed Stalwin Black? Had we managed to do either of those things, what would Finley do?
I mean, that's a really good question, and it's super hard to answer because one of Finley's flaws were so wacky, right? Very paranoid, and he never really had a very serious tone, which was on purpose. I feel like he would have rejected as much as he could anything that had happened or any type of I don't know if honor is the right word or a title or whatever. I feel like he would have rejected that and walked away. Again, referring back to what I was just reading, even he didn't really understand who he was, what he was, where he came from. And I think that would end up being, he would kind of walk away from everything and really actually make that his last quest to really figure out who he was. If he was able to walk away. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Finley at the end would have been like, all right, I choose to stay in the simulation?
I don't know. I mean, that depends. Does staying in the simulation...
There's no simulation. There's no staying.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like...
if you solve the problem, the problem is solved.
Well, but so
I know
I think
that
what Dave means
my
is
brain is telling me this steak is juicy, delicious.
Okay,
yeah,
come on. Now.
It's. I get what you're saying, and I think the answer to that is, does remaining with the status quo, does he feel that will provide him the answers that he needs? If the answer is yes, then he would do that. If the answer is no, then he would reject the juiciness of the steak and continue to the desert of the real.
He'd be like, make me someone famous.
Yeah. Not too far.
You really just want to keep... Gleemo, I don't know if you have any questions. You're like a combined audience member / cast member.
You're the little face in the top right of the Japanese game shows telling the audience how to feel.
Yeah. Is that
What's
a
it
thing?
like having your own function? That's what I want to know.
Well, since you said that.
Oh my god.
So good.
Yes.
You've been using that green screen way too much, brother.
Oh my god, I love it.
That was good. That was pretty good though.
So, when we kind of kicked around the idea, and I jokingly said I would come on and give Gleemo's epilogue, and then AP announced that that's what I was doing, and I was like, shit, I was just making a joke.
Listen,
okay.
I backed down afterwards. I was like, hey,
No,
man,
it's
look, you don't
fine.
have to come if you don't want to.
So, what little I wrote up was that Gleemo of the Western Gate used his extraplanar magic to learn of a new type of music called Sleemau.
Really? You're just gonna... Okay. All right. Just gonna steal that from me.
Well,
Yeah.
what goes
all right.
around comes around.
Sure, I'll take it.
He created a new function, started a new dance party craze with the industrial sounds of a mech bay.
Oh my god.
Thanks, I hate it.
I also hate it, and I invented Sleemau. So, all right. I love the idea that in every timeline, that is his end. Is that he travels to other planes, and it's just like, oh hey, you guys have got some real good culture here. Let me just take it home. I'm gonna teach people about this dance party. Yeah. I'm gonna teach the youngins. Look at that. Yeah, look, they call this a Charleston from another plane. All right, you want to try that? All right.
I got a question for Gleemo.
Absolutely.
If Kelly had chosen Gleemo as one of the reclaimed, what would have the ending of Gleemo's life looked like?
So here's where I have to admit I didn't watch that episode.
So Kelly has he's a paladin of time basically. So
Yeah.
he has like 3 slots of people that he can curse with our immortality. So whenever the timeline resets, they go back to where they were reclaimed, but they still remember everything that happened.
I
We
just
have
want
one-
I
we have one
really
slot
want to
left.
contest the word reset because that's not how it works.
Well, we don't know that yet.
but from your point of view, that would indeed seem to be true.
Well, we never got the chance to run into anyone who was reclaimed post us coming back.
That's true, but they were all waiting for you. However, your boy, Mr. Goblin, only had one arm because he lost it on the way out the door.
Damn.
Yeah, he's gonna be like a bitter old general, but yeah, I died. I lost this for my beliefs, Kelly, but it was an honor.
Damn, that would have been so cool, man.
He had some new cleric powers.
That would have been dope. It reaffirms his beliefs, and then he comes out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, that's
damn.
exactly how it worked.
Wait, so this is like a quick question to you, AP.
Yeah.
The reclaimed, do they also get to change things
No.
when they?
That's specific to all of you based on your bargain.
So they come as they are in whatever
Yes.
timeline they are, but they
Correct.
remember what happened. Okay.
Yes. One quick thing I want to add is that there were what one could call, I guess they wouldn't be called evil versions. I listed them as selfish versions of each of you, wandering around the other planes, like versions that had either created a clone or through some dark bargain had exited the path of repeating. And we're just wandering around the multiverse now, just being like, oh, God. I think at some point I'm going to have to go back and kill my other self. So tired of
Damn.
watching me fail over and over again.
That's a very. Was that in Majora's Mask that you had to face yourself as Dark? Or
I
Link
mean,
in
there's definitely a
the
Dark Link in
Megaton.
almost every.
Zelda?
But this would be if I ever needed like a surprise boss fight to bring out a version of, let's say, Kelly that's as strong as the whole party to fight. That would know all of your weaknesses and mock you relentlessly. And also share, like spoilers. Just be like, yeah, that's right. I bet this has happened. Then I guess this is going to happen next.
I love the idea that the Nega Kelly points at Finley Longbottom and you.
No one knows who you
Any
are.
backstory on you.
I'll tell you exactly who you are.
So you don't have to answer this. But if Kelly gets with other Kelly, is it masturbation? Is that how that works?
I'm not qualified to answer that question.
I mean,
You would need to talk to a physiologist or what do they call masturbate?
Quantum
sexual
physiologist,
science?
maybe?
No, like a sexual sciences major.
I was just gonna say, read any Heinlein novel.
Oh Jesus, please no, no. Oh my God.
I mean, okay. So I want to ask. This is a really silly question, and we'll come back to the myself and Drumurboy's thing,
Yeah.
I guess. But
Yeah.
Arthur, there was a certain point when the game deviated into more like adult zone than you were probably expecting the game to go into, with like the amount of fornication that was happening in the game and all that sort of stuff. Was that like were you happy with that?
It is what it is,
Yeah.
Listen, I survived restart, which will always be worse than that. Like, I've hit the theoretical upper limit of my patience with restart, and you guys got nowhere near close to
Was
that.
that the anime game?
Yes, it was.
I'm not at all surprised.
Yep.
I don't have any insight into that whatsoever.
I mean, they spent several episodes visiting a Sprito brothel. Those like BDSM based using webs. So
What's anime?
yeah, thanks for that, Spootnik.
I mean, I like to think that we handled that with like as much comedy and reverence as we could. So
Sure,
I feel
yes.
like-
Yeah, I didn't think it was
I
bad.
was like,
Look.
oh Jesus, guys, we gotta fucking.
Yeah, so I mean, look, Dave, it's outside my wheelhouse and my area of comfort, but it is what it is. It's an R-rated stream. We're mature adults, or
It was
we
never
pretend to
particularly
be.
explicit anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's never gonna happen on my stream. I'm never gonna be like. I'm still shocked that someone asked me during Winter's Edge, like, where did dragon babies come from? And I was like, really? We're gonna do this?
Like the only time I was shocked was when my character legit died from fucking a sucker.
No, that's what I was gonna say.
That was just
was-
so
that
funny.
was more because like I this is like my first long-term D&D thing, so I
Yeah.
don't know anything. Okay.
Yep.
I was like, what? We died? Oh, all right.
I mean, I think my most pivotal moment in this entire campaign was when the Incubus came up for the first time, and I kind of went with the decision to roll with it, and that literally defined Kelly for the rest of the play experience. And I'm kind of glad that sort of stuff happened in this game, because like you don't, in my experience with D&D characters, you don't really get like massive pivotal character changing moments, and then also on the same token, the ability to like change a character drastically but still have those things affect them. Like I was really happy with that. So I mean, that's kind of the reason why I'm so keen on doing this sort of you know, this sort of what you call it, like wind up, I guess.
Sure.
Something.
I mean, in Burning Wheel, it's simply called the turning of the wheel. But yeah, like only in long-term D&D where the players and the game master actually care about long-term plot development, do you see characters change and grow in the way that you might in like multiple seasons of Game of Thrones, where, or anything adjacent to it, like Lord of the Rings, where characters go from being like huge, massive coward gardeners to the actual literal bravest person on earth carrying a man up the side of a flaming mountain.
Yeah. Fucking Samwise Gamgee is the fucking hero. 100%. But I guess I'll step into, I guess, what I thought Kelly would go down. So there was two major focuses that Kelly had over their life. I'll say there because, you know, his gender or her gender, their gender was like fluid for the most of the game. The first one was that you know, their reliance on like the gods, and then the reliance on not the gods was like a big character plot development for that. But then the next moment was one that happened very recently, was the idea that Kelly can sort of become so empowered that literal plain walking beings have no power or control over her. So my sort of end goal for where I saw Kelly going was more down the road of like becoming an independent entity, controlling or otherwise, in this space. And that's probably what would have happened in the end. Not necessarily like, you know, taking over a seat on the Sith and becoming one of the most powerful beings in the universe, but more that, you know, removing all of these sorts of controlling elements from Kelly's life, I guess. So removing the gods, removing Starving Black, and just sort of using that and filling a void with her own power, essentially, is where I saw Kelly ultimately going. That probably would have taken a lot longer than 12 episodes. So like, I don't see that being like a short-term stuff. If I had to wrap it up in like 10 episodes, right? Like, let's say hypothetically, Arthur was like, oh, let's do 10 more episodes of this and try and wrap up the story as quickly as we can. Kind of like, you know, you got renewed for one more season and the writers have to scramble and make come together.
Legend of Korra, where they never knew whether they were going to be continued or not at the end of every season.
You're the season 3 of a Netflix show because the algorithm has determined that only two seasons are worth it and the third is the end.
Yeah. So hypothetically, I guess it would be that her ending would be left up in quotations. I think if anything, she would try and bring back the Dragonborn in that world a little bit.
So the Dragonborn were never really gone. Well, all right, that's not true. The Dragonborn were gone. But that's only because you guys accidentally killed a shit ton of dragons.
Whoops.
There's only one of each dragon left by the time we had gotten around to it, and if you had killed a dragon, it would have been permanent. The dragon's loss would have... Every dragon that's killed is permanently lost in the timeline. So.
Oh, that's sick.
Yes. That's why there was only one of them left, and none of them really liked talking to you, which is why the red one was like, okay, well, let's get you along your way. Next time you meet me, I'm not going to be so nice. Let's move along. Because it was afraid you were going to try to kill it while it was at its weakest rather than when it was at its strongest.
You were like kind of extra salty at the fact that we didn't go after the White Dragon quest.
No, but I mean, you guys encountered several dragons that you never really realized were dragons. Like the person who made you drink your own spit was also a dragon.
I had suspicions.
Yeah,
I had suspicions. But it was way too funny to go with this stupid story that you were presenting in front of us.
I will also remand you, I did not.
I remember you were the last one to go specifically, and you said that you weren't.
90% spit. No.
I I mean, it's just water, bro. Just drink it. No.
All right, there was a question in chat. What would happen if Kelly reclaimed the one guy that stands on rocks? Assume we're talking about Rorik. How big of a plot change would that be? It would be, for Rorik, it would be massive, but it depends on which Rorik you grabbed. I want you to imagine a world in which happy Rorik, who is married to the priestess, I want to say her name's Liliana, and that's not correct.
It might have been.
Scrolling through my notes.
Yeah, it was Liliana.
It was Liliana, priestess of Wellman. All right, imagine she wasn't a priestess of Wellman in that timeline, though. She was a priestess of the sun god of fucking around, Heros. All right, imagine that Rorik, whose life had never gone to shit, being thrown into the timeline and suddenly be like, why is my wife not married to me? She follows a different god. Everyone in town respects me, but they no longer call me a knight. I don't have any of my paladin powers in this timeline. What
is happening?
If you'd taken shitty Rorik to the good Rorik timeline, he equally would have been like, what is going on? Why is everybody alive in this timeline?
If I was going to take any of the Roriks, I would have taken like turn paladin Rorik 100%.
Evil paladin Rorik?
Oh yeah.
Listen, that's a rare timeline Rorik. You only saw that one once.
Yeah, and we kicked these
that's one of those seasonal event Roriks that you can only get for a limited time.
No, but
that's Bone Zone Rorik.
Yeah, Bone Zone Rorik.
But the thing is, we know how to make Bone Zone Rorik show up. That's the thing. We know we know the flags we need to pass in order to get him to show up. So theoretically speaking, I would have gone for the most powerful one, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because he was so tied up with death.
Yes, but he was also literally evil.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty tough to recover him from that.
We would have put him in like a box or something. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm not going to comment on that.
The Sarkor box that we've.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, when you put him in there, he's outside of space and time for all eternity.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
Oh my god.
So, Drumurboy, do you want to do your little shindig, man?
Yeah, I didn't get a ton of time to think about it, but these are just like kind of stream of consciousness.
Well, why don't you give us the if we had 10 episodes left, what would it look like? And if you had like, I guess the unlimited writing potential to craft your own narrative for like a forever or whatever.
10 episodes left. Daka would have 100% got us to Stalvin's castle, to touch the crystal in the castle. Because that was his next big goal, to see if that would break something important.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
That crystal is the center point of his power.
Great. That would have been his second, because like that was kind of his plan after we got the other dudes.
No, like I don't want to say like he won't have any power, but there would no longer be a democratic kingdom area. Stalvin Black would be more like a Robin Hood figure at that point, rather than a legitimate world leader.
It would have been the timeline that we would snipe the dude in, for sure, 100%.
He would have been at his weakest.
Having learned that now, like if we learned that in the show, and then if we still had episodes left, I probably would have gone on a manhunt to kill Stalvin Black.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally remember that being our plan going forward. Was we're gonna break in there and touch that crystal, you know.
So getting in there would not have been easy.
No, I don't expect so.
There was a subplot that we never really followed to find.
Was there an entry or the winning tournament, like Grandmaster was inside the castle?
No.
Arthur,
But
do you want to hear my Ocean's 11 plan that I was concocting to try and get into Stalvin Black's castle?
All right, I'll tell you how it could be done after you tell me how yours works. So remember that you have to be invited in order to get in.
Here's the thing. Yeah. I would have done something so stupid. It would have been amazing.
Yes.
Right? Step 1, convince the Fire Princess that marrying Stalvin Black is the way to go.
Wow. All right. That
Oh, okay.
would not have worked, but sure.
By reclaiming her
Yeah.
and showing her the actual reality of what's happening. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm following you so far. Still would not have worked. I
Step
just
two,
want to be honest.
she's-
She's a total psychopath, and if you had shown her the way reality would work, she would have abused it in a way that none of you ever did.
That's fantastic. Step 2, she agrees to do this, right? Without
wouldn't,
any
but okay.
problem.
Keep
She
going.
agrees to do- and then there's a big ceremony being held, and we come in as waiters, right?
You
No
still
one
need to be
suspects a
invited,
thing.
so
Yes, she invites us as waiters. It's fine. We get in. Right? And then as you know,
doesn't work
as
like that.
as an amazing party's happening around us, we
Yeah.
all rip off our waiters gear underneath, and holy crap, it's the party. No one noticed, and then we walk up and touch the crystal. It would have been great.
Yeah.
for us.
All right. There are so many holes in that plot, but
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it's like
Yes.
the Ocean's 11 thing. As we're standing there about to touch the crystal, we explain to the audience how we got there. That's how it happened.
of course.
I would have spoken to Stalvin Black, and like for some reason he always wanted to talk to Daka. Like
Yes, because you're a
Rose-
warlock. He wanted to convert you.
yeah, so I would have hit my crit on a charisma roll and gotten an invitation in.
Okay.
Damn.
The other way to do
what
it would
is-
be. No, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to ask Daka to do the Drumurboy to do his lifelong ambition.
Well, like, although he was kind of flip flopping on the idea of killing all the gods or Stalvin Black. It was like his plan was to kill Stalvin Black, and if the problem wasn't solved, to kill the rest of the gods.
It would have been solved. That's a solved problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if this was like, we played this game for another 2.5 years and reached level 20, Daka would have.
That was unlikely, but yes.
Yeah, Daka would have either by force or by ritual renounced his name and become the unnamed mask himself.
I'm so glad you brought that up. There was a whole thing where you could battle the unnamed masks and see which one of you comes out on top in
Yeah.
order to gain the power.
Oh shit!
Yep,
Yeah.
I had that whole plot line set aside for you. Just
I
waiting.
saw the breadcrumbs. I'm like, I want
Yep.
that. I
Yeah.
want that.
You could have ended up becoming less than a god, more than an extra planar.
Yep. But what would have been funny when the Incubus was talking to Kelly about like Kelly becoming the Archfiend, I was imagining like a DBZ battle between Daka and Kelly, like our old visions between the Archfey and the Archfiend. Like you wanting
They
to
battled
save
for the end
gods
of
and-
time.
Yeah, you wanting to save the gods, or you wanting to kill the gods, and me wanting to kill Stalvin Black, just like the vision.
Why
Infinity.
not do both?
You have all the time in the world to sort it out.
Yeah,
So
but
Arthur,
then
what were you saying about the?
Stalvin Black. So, I mean, it's not like there's not a way to get past the ward spells that Stalvin Black had placed on his castle and its surrounding environments. And I mean, you guys could have theoretically punched through that kind of stuff, but the built-in back hole was Stalvin Black had a daughter who had permission to grant people access to the castle, but you had to go through like a valley of undeath and fight the original 10 lords who failed Stalvin Black, like the original rebels who stood beside him and then failed, and he damned their undead spirits to forever guard the valley he was protecting his daughter with. And once you got into there, it wasn't clear where his daughter was, because we haven't really addressed it, but Stalvin Black is actually like well over 100 years old, and so his daughter was like in her 60s and would have been a grandmother, and you'd be like, let's go find that daughter, and I'd be like, the old woman directs you to go here, there, and everywhere.
yeah, well, like in his notes, I don't know if I ever shared his notes like with the party. Like I shared like some tidbits and stuff, but like it was basically the origin of Stalvin Black. Like he was an orphan, and that like ratty cloak he always wore was to remind him of that, and like
His
where he
potato
wanted
sack.
people to go. Yeah. But I think in there somewhere was like mention of a daughter, or you mentioned them sometime
Yeah,
before.
you had gotten the idea of the daughter before, but you were busy doing it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the daughter was the other key. She would have given you permission because turns out she doesn't like her dad.
Oh, if we got to like end game kind of stuff, this would have happened somewhere between wrecking the crystal and like becoming level 20 unmasked or the non-named masked person. Daka would have gone like full on crazy pants mode to figure out the old blue people, because he kept on hearing about these people and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I remember Kelly constantly trying to stab herself with Alcar the Glorious.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
I'm disappointed I never got to see any of that.
Well, stop rolling badly.
Yeah, because
Everyone else just went to sleep.
Not possible.
Everyone else just went to sleep. I'm sitting here trying to stab myself and shit, and you're just like, no.
Has to happen naturally. You can't force it.
No plot for you, Dave.
Did everyone else get like a blue person?
I think it was just Agrim and Finley.
And Finley, okay.
I was working on it. If you're asking who is Finley Longbottom, you missed out when Finley explained who Finley Longbottom was earlier.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to go back and watch the VOD to reveal the truth.
Sorry, Zonalar.
I have one burning question I need to fucking know, Arthur.
Yeah.
I need to know, was each crystal set up to be a different, like if we touch a crystal, does it go to that version of the world?
Yes. Imagine each crystal was like a SNES emulator save state for something like Chrono Trigger. And so when you touched one, it would disappear and the world would reset as if that crystal was not present during the new timeline. And so based on that, new events would unfold starting about 100 years ago, sometimes longer.
How many crystals were there in total? Like how many different
let me go ahead and look at a map here.
We knew about
I want to say there was like 5 or 8.
There was there's one in every country to start with, and then there were several more that dragons were guarding. So I'd say that there were probably about 10.
Okay.
Oh.
And we saw 1, 2,
4, I want to say
3. We
that
saw.
we interacted with.
I think we saw
interacted
3.
with
We
4.
knew about another one inside the castle. I don't think we ever interacted with it. I think we only 4 total.
You'd heard about the one in Stalvin Black's castle. Yes.
Yeah.
The one in Magdar was guarded by Valdella.
Yeah. And then there was the drow one with the red dragon.
The red dragon. Yep.
And then the one in the Claims of the Flow.
Yes.
There's also the witches hut one.
The witches did not have one.
That was the Magnar one. That was Valdella.
Oh, okay, that was Valdella. Okay.
Yeah.
There was one in Freehold. The mountain that you guys came out of, the top of it had I call it the tomb of the sleeping black dragon that made the swamps poisonous. Inside there was a crystal that it was guarding, but you needed the key from the kobolds, from the 3 stabs of the 3 leaders in order to open the door. There was one inside the giant super beetle destructive weapon Sarn-San Sin. That was what powered it.
Oh, yeah. We were going to kill that thing.
And then there was one in all the other countries.
Right. We never even got to the...
Sarn-San Sin? No. I mean...
No, the Spice Land, the
No, the Halfling Lands. Listen.
We never went there.
There's so much content for there that we're never going to get to. The druids... raise trees, and then you can't make your own house. You have to go to a druid, and the druid will find a tree that agrees to become your house, and then they cut that tree down and use it to make your house out of it.
Can I just say real quick, Rip Baba, good.
That one fit.
That whole fucking plot line was my favorite, dude. I loved
every part of the Sunpath Empire.
I love the lizard boar fight. That was probably my favorite fight in the entire game. That one was just brutal.
The fuck you 1 round takedown of their king.
Oh my god. That was
Oh,
an
God.
awesome fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, my other favorite fight was when we were like fought that yellow lizard dragon thing, and we're just like, look, all my party's dead. Can we just hang out with you and just like go kill some people? And
Oh,
he's like,
until
"Yeah,
the
I'll
sun comes
fucking-"
up? Yeah.
And trap bait, good old trap bait. That
Good
was
old
a
Died.
trap bait. Yeah, good old trap bait. So
What was the name of the... I mean, he had a title. Oh, yeah. He's called Lizard King Belial, but his actual name was Sisi Thali.
yeah.
Yes.
Was there the only other question I had was related to specifically when we went and saw the snake skeleton.
The Bone Naga, yeah.
Yeah, the bone naga. Yeah. How much of what he told us was fact?
So, I mean, the thing is, the Naga were made by the races that worship like the Blue People race and all of your original races. All the people that worship the first god, the god of time, made the Naga, and then the Naga were basically like the arbiters of the world for infinity until the gods are like, well, fuck it, we're just gonna make elves and they're gonna kill all the Naga. And then the elves killed all the Naga and other races started showing up, and the elves were like, we're the chosen of the gods, bitches. What do you want? We rule this world. We fucking run this world. We run it so badly, we're gonna invent humans and we're gonna use them to give you sexually transmitted diseases. Suck it, halflings. And then that backfired on the elves.
Mm-hmm.
How much did... So let's bring it back around to the Naga then. Of course, all of their knowledge is, shared over an infinity of time since the beginning of time, essentially, to now. It was, from his point of view, totally truthful. From the actual point of view, mostly true.
Okay, so we were like essentially, I wouldn't say children, but more like the residual energy of this original god. Is that sort of what?
All right, let me cut to a question from chat and then I will answer this, because what I'm about to tell you is like endgame stuff. All right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fluga Fluga asked, was the guy from the start the secret halfling? Now, I'm assuming he's talking about the old man raising the lantern at the beginning of every timeline.
Well, we knew he was
yeah.
some sort of. He wasn't as he appeared because
He is a halfling. So the name he gives people is Liam Roniak, but his actual name is Talon Soundwater. He's supposed to be the current head of the Soundwater Collective, which is basically the halfling mafia.
Yeah, those people that we're making deals with last time,
Making deals with
or about to kill them.
that's a strong
Aggressive negotiations.
Correct. All right, so Strongwater Collective Union is basically the mafia. This guy, Talon Soundwater, is supposed to be the head of it. He's the lost heir. He's the Anastasia. He decided to run away when people started trying to kill him, and like his shitty cousins took over, and now they're looking for him on the down low. And so he transforms to make himself look like a human and hang out in a swamp as far from halfling lands as possible.
Is that why he nuked us when I asked him if he knew about this name?
Correct.
There you go.
The only time that Kelly didn't die.
Yeah. We were like, what were we, level 2 or 3? We had no chance.
Oh yeah, no, he
Correct.
nuked us.
I mean, by now you guys would have easily been able to. But because he was an arcane trickster, he was like a rogue wizard hybrid.
Well, okay, but before you spill any more plot stuff, then I guess the only other question I wanted to know is like the madness stuff. Was that like, how were you tracking, like how close we were to being Crazy Town all the time?
1d6 plus 1 if you were the one who caused the death.
Okay.
And then once you guys hit certain amounts, like 20, 30, 40, you would reach a new tier. You guys all relatively, surprisingly, managed to reach somewhere around 25 at the same time. And that's when I was like, all right, well, now you get access to your godly abilities again. Your lowest level godly abilities.
So if we went full crazy, we would be our old god selves.
Yes, but you would also be crazy.
Yeah. So I've got a quick question.
Yes.
All of our backgrounds, the stuff that we would like, if we failed, we threw up.
Yes.
Was that like implanted Blade Runner style from the people that made us kind of
Correct.
shit?
So you did have actual backgrounds. You were all powerful adventurers and champions chosen by the god of time to solve his problem in the future. He could see the future, but he could never reach it because the future would only exist if he was dead. So he decided to send the strongest and wisest and most loyal people he knew. He imbued them each with a piece of his essence and had all of his greatest magicians and scientists work up a way to keep them alive to deliver you in like a magical pod to the future where you would solve the problem that would be caused by his death, which is that the gods, all of the other gods, now control everything now that he doesn't control everything.
And the magical pod was the mountain that we came out of.
Well, the mountain is not the pod. The mountain is the dock at the far end of the pod's path.
Hmm.
The magical pod is less pod-like and more conceptual.
So Daka's memory of Stolfman Black like stealing things on the day of his father's funeral was to like instill hatred in Stolfman
Correct.
Black?
Yes. In addition, I want you to imagine that this magical pod is no longer a concept. It actually exists. Part of Daka broke off early. That was the unnamed mask. And in doing so, he stole a little bit of god power from everybody. And then he just showed up on the material plane and was like, oh man, this place sucks. Like he wandered around for a couple years and was like, all right, well, I know everything here now. I'm going to go extraplanary. And then he ended up on the Fae plane and was like, oh, I can't stop killing these Fae. But now it seems like they worship me, so I guess I'm the Lord of Summer now, and I guess I'm their god.
Here I go killing again,
Yeah.
basically.
I thought you were going to say to me that the firstborn that he offered to the Fae was actually the unnamed mask in the future.
Nope. No, indeed, the unnamed mask was just himself with a little bit of all of your powers.
Oh, the last scene of Daka getting like assuming assuming the godhood or the demi-godhood of the unnamed mask would be to rip that hag's spine from her back. Just like
yeah, I bet. Who was the fifth member?
What would happen to Riverine if Daka did that actually? Like
I mean, her soul is entirely owned by the unnamed mask, so I mean,
but like her corporeal form would still exist?
Sure. I mean, as long as you willed it to, yes.
He would, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I assume you wouldn't want to kill your daughter. The unnamed mask didn't kill your daughter, and he's also kind of you. I mean, you're not exactly the same anymore because you've diverged in knowledge, but he's mostly you. Just like a shittier, aggressive, murderous version of yourself.
So I have a question. If the heroes that the Time Lord or Time God picked to send into the future all had proper backstories.
Yes.
And were actual people at one stage.
Correct.
How is it that we were able to like modify who we were?
That was part of the magical preparation to allow you to choose. Right, so the races of the future didn't exist at the time that you were being prepared to be sent forward. And if you had just shown up and been like, yo, we're, like some ancestral race you've never heard of, everyone's going to be like, wow, I wonder what'll happen if we dissect it and eat its liver. So they basically reshaped your essence so that you would match it. The problem, of course, was that...
and then they synthesized a flavor powder and that became cart nuts.
Wow. That's not even close to how cart nuts work.
Well, cart nuts are actually like unpopped corn kernels covered in flavor.
If the flavor is bronze, then yes. When you reach the future, you had a problem, of course. You could continuously loop time, but in so doing, the god of death would just show up and immediately kill you because she was pissed that no one was ever dying. Right? Because every time you said time, all of the souls she had claimed were lost, and so it got to the point she just spawn camped you outside the mountain, and every time anyone would set their foot outside, she would immediately kill them using the powers of death. So you were forced into making a bargain. You would slowly go insane and lose your memories, and she would become weaker in the process. You going crazy would force her to become gradually weaker and weaker. Her assumption was eventually you all would choose to you would go so crazy you would rather die than continue the cycle, and your part of the bargain was, well, we have to get our job done, and we will not go crazy and beg you for death before the end of this. So it was essentially like that kind of bargain. What played into it was you had been given the powers to reshape yourself and your identity in order to infiltrate society and say, wow, the gods really suck, or Stalvin Black really sucks. And so, unexpectedly, when you reset, you began to be able to be like, oh, I'm a completely different person now by my own choice.
Okay.
Yes, she was a fucking spawn camper. The question as to who the fifth member is of course the god of death. She's not technically a member of this quartet, if only because she literally is the embodiment of the power of the god of time. But the part of time that ends.
Right, yeah.
Because he died, so he no longer had that power, and they made her out of the corpse.
So all the gods are like aspects of the previous kind of.
No,
fragment?
they all existed at that time. But I want you to imagine that you are the god of fire, and the god of time, anytime you didn't do what he wanted to, would loop time back and wait the billions and billions and billions of time until you did what he wants. Let's say that at any given moment, there's a 0.000 bazillion one chance that you will strike down a particular mortal as a god. He would wait until you did exactly what he wanted, and once that event happened, he would then allow time to resume. So he was extremely tyrannical in that way. I mean, he's a god of time. He can make anything happen just by waiting for it to happen. Now, of course, the other gods were stuck. They experienced time in the way that he did, which they were stuck waiting and waiting for him to finally choose to do it, which is why they were all furious with him and so glad to kill him.
I'm also curious. This is an interesting side diversion. What would have happened if we just lived?
I mean, at some point, one of you would grow old and die,
and then we'd reset.
And that would reset.
Yeah.
So
what would happen if we just lived? You did that timeline.
Well, I mean, but that was to a point. Like we
sure.
had
Yes, dying of old age was a possibility in this game.
That would have been a very interesting timeline. Like, fucking hell. Imagine just everyone just being like, all right, guys, we need a break from each other. And then we just all...
Let's spend 20 years in the mountains.
We would just all live the rest of our lives, however long it is, until eventually Spooty's character dies of heart failure. Like,
right.
I like how you think that he's the one that's going to die first.
I mean, in the last timeline we were in, I was a human.
Yeah.
We could have answered the question, how much paper do you need to eat to die?
I would have had to call a doctor for that one. Probably a very specialized doctor.
Goat doctor.
Okay.
So I have a world building question. Arthur,
Please
how
ask.
much of this like crazy story did you know when you started this campaign?
A very large amount of it was pre-written. The part where they could change their classes, I had written it down as an option because I knew going through the game, they were going to die a lot. And there was an episode where Henley said something like, I'd like to experience another class, and I think Atomic agreed, and the whole party was kind of in agreement, and I was like, well, that's off the back burner. That's now canon. That the encapsulation and sending you into the future thing, that whole plot line came into existence as a result of that. I had written it down as a possibility of the thing, but when they said that that was what they wanted, I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's do it.
It made the game immensely more enjoyable. I will say that we could at any point be like, well, I would like to reflect, like, because it was such a weird party. Like, it was such a weird party to start with. We had one rogue, one fighter, and 2 rangers.
Yeah.
You know, like that was such a weird starting party. Considering the fact that also Ranger is like criminally underpowered in this system to the point where it was like if you guys had played any longer as Rangers, I think you would have literally gone insane and death would have came down and like taken us away. But I mean, it made the game much more enjoyable only because I could be like, well, what would a fucked up Kelly look like as a Dragonborn, or what would a fucked up Kelly look like as a, you know, some other type of weird creature. Like it was cool. It was a really interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, and it was like it became necessary because the more information we learned, the more we could customize ourselves to like adapting to that problem. So we were like, we were just like a core being, and like classes and shit were kind of like a loadout.
Yeah, you were like, it should take it to Zoids. You were like a Liger 0, and you could equip whatever module system you needed.
Yeah.
That's anime, Spoot.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah, you get it. All right.
I guess there is one more question I had. Like our plan.
You keep saying one more.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to say one more question. You could just keep asking questions. I'm not gonna stop you. Can I catch up on chat questions though, real quick, because they have a lot of them. All right. There's a question of what would happen if they use the ability of a ring of mind shielding that lets you put your soul into it. I've not considered that. I don't even know what that item is, so I hadn't planned for it, but I'm sure it would have been real fucked up. In fact, that might be the origin of some of the selfish versions of or evil versions of them wandering around through the planar universe.
If I remember correctly, that ring, basically, when you die, your soul gets put into it, and someone else can like interact with that ring and release you at some point.
Sure. I assume that one of your selfish versions then would have been born of such an attempt. They were asking about the dwarf for the other dwarf, which I assume is the blacksmith White Knuckle, who was looking for Tormek White Knuckle, who was looking for Cazador White Knuckle. Cazador is not present on this plane. He's from another campaign, so you would not have been able to find him here. But you could have sent Tormek back to the Land of Death behind Stolfin Black. Well, conceptually underneath Stolfin Black's castle. It's not a physical location. But you
Which
could
would
have
have happened if we managed to get in there and break the crystal.
Correct. You could have sent Tormek back there, and had he survived, he might have been able to make his way home and maybe find Cazador. What was the curse that lay down on the plane, and why was it there? That is such a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. There's a guy that we've mentioned a whole bunch in this game, even though we never really met him. His name is fuck, where did I put it?
Monochrome?
No, it's the elf.
Oh.
I gotta look in the interplanar guy because that's where Flurry the Elder. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
So Flurry the Elder is the first elf. He's basically Papa Elf. The gods made him to be the most perfectly elfinest person possible.
Could we have met him? I was under the impression he was long dead.
No, he was not long dead. In fact, he's the only of the originators to live. Like, you met 2 undead elves who were part of his basically his children, essentially.
Yeah. That was why I thought he was dead, because
he was not dead. He lives at the center of Elflands, being a super elf. All right, so this guy basically inherited the gods' knowledge on how to make magical weapons. And what he did was, for the elves, he made them cool magical weapons. And over the years, he was the... how to say this? Imagine that the archetypes for fighter, or any class, imagine that they are learned by someone becoming very powerful at doing a thing, and then teaching others how to do that thing. He is the original, I think it's Battlemaster or Warmaster fighter, that when you throw a weapon, you can summon it back to yourself.
Oh, the Arknight.
He is the origin of that ability. So
Right.
what he did is every magical weapon he had ever made, he could summon any of them back to himself. And so rather than fight using swords or lances or anything like that, he would just summon them above somebody and let them fall down on top of that person, essentially.
Damn, that is so anime.
And he could call all of the weapons he ever made. So what he ended up doing was he would disguise himself as a dwarf and teach dwarves smithing. And in the process, he would teach them the wrong way. He would teach them a cursed way that when the magic weapon was used and a fumble was rolled, it would hurt the wielder. And so all dwarves learned that cursed way. All halflings learned it. All of the other races learned, as he would spend generations going to each race and teaching them how to make magical weapons incorrectly. And that was one of the curses that he laid across the world, because he's a huge shithead who wanted the elves to be successful. In the end, he's this super bitter dude who lives in Elfland who has to look at all these half-elves wandering around that he considers to be little better than, like, if you fucked your dog, basically.
Is that who Silverblade was after?
Yes, Silverblade wanted to kill him.
Right.
I mean, for Silverblade, he wanted to kill a lot of the old elves because he wanted to become, basically, he wanted to become Fleur the Elder, like the king of all elves. Because from his point of view, the elves were the premier magical race.
So when we were in the underground where we met I forget his name now. Fuck. The guy that I reclaimed, the cleric of death.
Haig.
Yes,
Hey.
hey,
I was gonna say Greg for some reason, but anyway.
Greg.
You know, Greg.
Greg the Goblin, you know?
It's like a
What's that alliteration?
It's like Deadpool 2, the super gang, and then Harold or whatever his name was.
His initials are GG. You know, it's nice.
So whatever happened to the vampire that we let loose in there?
Oh yeah.
I have, you're talking about the vampire and the wraith that you allowed escape?
Yeah.
I have really bad news for you. They went to go confront Acheron, and it turns out that because Acheron's a necromancer, he just mind controlled them. They were like, "We're here to face you," and he was like, "Well, you're my pawns now, and you're both super strong. You're actually stronger than me, so thanks."
Oh,
Yeah.
what was the orb thing?
It was the pure crystallized power of the god of death.
Okay.
So it was
Son
the
of a
ladies.
bitch.
Yep, it was the ladies' power. Finley destroyed it in one timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she, because of her bargain with you guys that allowed you to leave the cave without her murdering you, but allowed you to go mad, she can no longer directly affect events. For instance, she can't just outrightly kill people.
But she can give that to
But she
someone
can
else.
she can empower her agents. And I mean, I think you fought some crazy guy in the middle of Bondarok who was like, death! Yep, she
We didn't-
empowered him.
Yeah.
We
She gave
didn't
it to
fight him.
Rorik at one point.
We got him captured, and then
Oh, yeah, and he
sent
died.
him to
Yes.
Dreamland,
Yep.
and
He came into the hotel that we were sitting in with his stupid horse, and then we talked him out of it, and he's like, "Bye."
yeah, that was in the desert place. I think AP was talking about like random dude with a knife trying to like.
Yeah, in Bondarok, you did face some guy who was like, I'm gonna kill you!
That was when Doc was still stealthy and like snuck into the jail and then
Yep.
hotboxed him in his jail and claimed him or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever happened to him.
There's a question about Aardvark. Did he get a good ending in any timeline? No.
No.
No,
I
fuck
want you
that
to
guy.
realize that
Fuck that guy.
Aardvark isn't a particularly good warlock, and he's not particularly powerful, and his chosen patron actually hates him and is insane, and basically used Aardvark as like a form of entertainment.
He's just not a good person. You shouldn't.
I don't
look
know
up to
that
him
I wouldn't say that
or
he's not a
ask
good
questions about
person.
him.
I mean, he is a charlatan, and he was actively scamming people on a regular basis.
Doc
So
would also show up and like invoke their wizard duel or warlock duel when he was the unnamed mask himself.
The one NPC who used wild magic to see into the timeline, who was he? I mean, he was just a random crazy. There were several people who had become, let's call it, woke to how the timeline worked, or at least some variation. They could see a small portion of it through their frail human brains, and that's guy.
What I did. That's what I did to that old lady in Hands of the Flow. Yep.
And it basically destroyed him in the process. He's a crazy person. How many king of animals did I have? I mean, all of the animals had a king. The first one I introduced was the boar king, who we still never saw. I mean, he was mentioned in like episode 2.
Yeah, we did kill a big boar. I don't know if it was him though.
Yeah, no, they were all dire boars out there, but the king of boars.
It gored me the first episode.
Yes, critical hit. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
So I have one question before you go on, before I forget, because
just one question.
Because
there's one more thing. Did you do it?
Yeah, Columbo. Okay.
So we had a plan to bring the gods back into the fold into our party, and Atomic took on the role of a cleric.
Yep.
Like a high level cleric.
Yes.
How much of that influence would have been like impactful maybe? To us, or felt, or whatever? Like how much of the gods' assistance could be?
The gods actually actively wanted you to succeed versus stall them back.
Yeah. Okay. Because it was like I'm surprised that he only had interactions with like a handler at that point. Like, you know, I
So the thing is, there are spells that allow you to talk to your god, and they're all really high level, and most of them have some form of drawback, which is why I would be loath to say you talk to God, period. It would take away from the fact that there are things that allow you to do that.
He only got to talk to whitewashed Jason Momoa.
Oh my god.
Wow. Is that what you're calling him? Whitewashed Jason Momoa? I was thinking it was more like Point Break.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what Point Break is? You don't? All right, well, it's a movie, and it's a remade movie. It's a surfer movie. It's about surfer crime.
Well, but it's an undercover FBI surfer bank robber movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Owen Wilson in a surfer movie. That's who it was.
Wow.
Well, it's was Keanu Reeves was in the original, right?
Yes, Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, and
that's
then it got remade.
Before my time. Then, like,
guys, have you seen the latest Bill and Ted
Early
trailer?
90s?
Keanu Reeves.
I was born
really
in '90, Brian.
I don't know. I feel like he's getting younger. He seems to. His hair gets longer, but.
Dude, he looks frail in Bill and Ted.
He looked amazing for the Cyberpunk 2077 reveal.
Oh yeah, like when he's action and pumped up and stuff like that, he looks good. But he's like in a comedy role, and he looks frail, man. Oh, it's so weird. Anyway, sorry.
It's gonna be weird seeing like Bill and Ted, and then like whenever Matrix 4 is done filming, because he's got to be like from frail to kind of not like super ripped, but like in shape.
Yeah. Oh, Spooty, did you have any questions, man? You haven't really asked.
Blimo, I don't know if you have any questions. I didn't want to just bring you here so you could listen to us talk.
I
mean, my question was gonna.
Okay.
My question was gonna be to ask for the big reveal.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I want to know.
Spread that butter.
What do you want to know?
How important was the cooking show to everything? Like, that's
obviously.
All right. Look, some people are asking what kind of prep I did for this show. Each nation had its own associated animals, dishes, and spices that I had prepared for it ahead of time.
There was a playing card game.
Yes, there was.
That we didn't discover until like a year.
There was the Adventuring Guild that you didn't discover by episode 3.
Yeah.
There was a harvesting thing that you never did for harvesting magical components from monsters.
We did
That was
some of that.
You kind
did some of
You
it,
kind of
yeah.
hinted at that because I remember you're just like, just bring me all this stuff and I'll make you sweet armor. And I was like, we're never gonna live that long. Get out of my face.
It wasn't a big deal for the other countries, but for the Sunpath Empire and the dwarves and the halflings, I had a detailed list of the economics of how each country worked because they were all big trade areas. For if you all wanted to manipulate that in some way to make money. Did James Shives live in this universe? No, he did not.
We were getting to that point where we wanted to manipulate it, right? We brought in that dude to the Reclaim team.
Yep,
and he
Rico
was
Under,
supposed
yeah.
to make us a bunch of money and stuff.
Sure.
And
I
guess-
he certainly was in a financially capable situation where he could do that, yes.
What would have happened if we did end up in the same timeline as that, like the adventuring guild master with all the cool weapons and shit?
Yeah.
If we brought him into the Reclaimed,
I mean, there would be some timelines where he'd be dead. So he would not like he would have to wait until you got back to a timeline where he was not dead. We want a Gleemo spin-off Welcome to the Fungeon. Look, Gleemo's a streamer. He can do this himself. he could do a show where he brings first level characters who are kids on to do a modular dungeon experience where all the goblins are just people in goblin masks.
Holy fuck. I can't even imagine, like, my brain just exploded at the mere premise of the idea thinking that a child can be a first level adventurer in D&D.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, first level is like, I studied years at the Arcanum and
Well, that's just for
50
wizards.
years
Sorcerers are
old.
just born being able to do magic, so...
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like every
Yes.
single D&D adventurer has like that tragic backstory and all this shit. But it's like, nah, I got out of elementary school one day and just went on an adventure.
Well, there are level 0 supplements for D&D that allow you to play a child, and based on your experience, it determines what first level you get. So
okay, the Fungeon. You know how Minecraft Dungeons is like kids' version of Diablo?
yes, I do. Well, I've been watching Ammunition play it and Caitlin.
The Fungeon is the kids' version of Dwarf Fortress.
Well, I don't think that's accurate, but okay.
Yeah, the kid's like digging that wall over there, and all the dwarves are just like.
It's like cardboard sheets, kind of like folding back.
Angsty teenagers and managing privileged pain in the ass parents. Yes.
I could see that being a very interesting game. By the way,
You
like,
play.
the idea that
You
play
Gleemo
you play an
Game
entrepreneur
Masters,
in the
and
game.
you play as the staff in Gleemo's Fungeon, having to
Dude.
manage the Fungeon.
We should get
It's like
a
Dungeon
bunch of-
Keeper.
Yes.
we should get a bunch of us together in Tabletop Simulator and make the Fungeon a fucking board game.
Oh boy, that sounds like more work than I'm willing to put into it.
No,
I
it's
feel
called,
like you
it's
could put it
called.
together really easy with dungeon tiles.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, it'd be Boss Monster. That's what it would be. Except you just
Ah.
change it to be like children.
Yeah, it's kind of like multiplayer, multiplayer Munchkin. Munchkin's already multiplayer, but like more branching
More
paths,
multiplayer.
more branching
Like,
paths than like
We
Kingdom
all
or whatever.
no. So Boss Monster, you all play like competing dungeons, and the idea is like there's a pool of children, and you have to like advertise your dungeon by making it interesting to these pooled children
Like
to
the
take
economy
the
style of it.
pool of children away and put them through your dungeon. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole idea of Boss Monster.
And then you could do that. It's the Fungeon Legacy game where like each one you go like you build up like your party of champions and send them out into the world.
Oh my god! And then if you kill enough radioactive zombies, you unlock a new class of hero.
Yeah.
No, anyway.
Sometimes your dungeon like it's permanently like screwed up tiles, so they have to like bypass it.
All right,
Ugh.
I'm gonna mispronounce this name. Techroach asks, was there a way to remove madness from their madness bar? There is, but you're not going to like it.
Other than partying for a week.
Yes, I think they mean permanently. So, as part of your bargain with the lady, the god of death, your madness builds and builds and builds until you hit essentially 100%. At 75%, you basically lose control of your character. And as you continue to die from that point, at some point you hit 100% while wandering around as a crazy person, and you're so crazy you lose your memories. And at that point, the next time you die, you reset at level 1. And what happened at the start of the stream, at the very first episode, was that all of you had reached that maximum madness at the same time, and you all reset to level 1 at the same time.
Is that why we're all fighting each other?
In the different various backstory timelines, yes.
Okay.
Because you were all crazy. So someone had asked, how many times had you done this? Hundreds of thousands of times.
Is that why no one was fighting Finley? Because Finley was always paranoid of everyone?
Yeah. He was always woke, man.
That's right.
If there's a dating simulator of the 4 of you, his character is the only one that looks directly at the screen to address the player.
Wait,
He's
what?
the talking head character.
I'm talking about DDLC. Don't worry about it. I'm talking about Monica.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. Man, I'm ready for the big reveal.
Okay, what is the
Give it
big
to me.
reveal? What's the questions you have?
I mean, you said you wanted to show us like the big.
I assume you have specific questions.
Why was there a reason we were chosen specifically? Like, how did we get caught
Powerful.
into the loop?
Powerful,
powerful.
loyal. Yeah. You know, he needed people who had experience at solving problems. The Vanilla Ices of the world, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, we know what the Sarkor were. What would happen if we like met the Sarkor that jived with us? Because they were kind of like,
It would be like having a super powerful magical item that also liked you.
You mean
They
like
were, like-
what I did with my sword? Was he a
Alcar?
sword?
Yeah, but Alcar isn't a Sarkor because he's not from this plane.
Oh.
Sarkor are, just to reiterate, essentially the remnants of the civilization you used to belong to.
Yeah.
That were hunted down and all destroyed by the gods when the Naga rose up. So the Naga were basically like, oh no, everyone's got these tragic corpses. Well, the gods are like harvesting your corpses, so I guess we might as well turn you into magical items in the process.
Makes sense.
Mm.
You know, you got to use the whole pig.
Like you do.
Yeah.
how many
Sarkor with a
viewers?
meat slurry.
How many viewers did we have in the alternate dimensions? Because we were on some sort of
So many viewers. Listen, the other planes were so tired of like a devil going in and being like, I will give you immortality, and then if you give me your soul when you die, but then that person would die, but then they would undie when time reset. They were so tired of that happening, they basically just fucked off from the prime material plane. And there was an entire demi-plane of gambling dedicated to watching everything that happened and like sub-betting on which of you would go crazy first, like which timeline path you would take. You became a form of entertainment for the rest of the multiverse.
That's awesome.
Who was
That-
making the money off that?
Tarnax
The
Lomonochrome.
house.
God, Vanzerevich.
The house. Well, who was the house?
I didn't write that far in. I never thought you got...
Tarnax Lomonochrome was the house.
No, not Tarnax, unfortunately. He's a little
Where
busy
was-
running around causing problems.
What was he in all this? Was he at any point in our? Well, he was in our plane at points because there was references to him in books, but he
Yes,
was
but
never like a
yeah,
player
so
we could meet.
yes. He was in the Interstellar Guide or Interplanar Guide, I think. People had heard of him because when the elves met Tarnax, they were like, oh, so this is what a human is. Interesting. And then he went around boning a bunch of elves and they got pregnant and they were like, oh, so humans and elves can have half-elf babies. Let's weaponize this. So Tarnax, basically, as a human, created humanity by accident on this plane. Like, they exist elsewhere in the multiverse and other material planes, but for him, he created the idea of it. And Flurry the Elder was like, great, let's turn them into a weapon used against the other races. Orcs, half-orcs, perfect. Give them diseases. They will be under our heel forever. What is Tarnax doing now? Flitting around the multiverse, still causing problems. Food Dungeon the D&D campaign I have for when the food supplement comes out was caused by Tarnax. He basically found a world that was dying and was like, all right, I'm going to save this one city and encapsulate it inside a plane. And then they were like, well, we don't have any way to get more food. There's not enough farmland, and we need to reclaim the water. And Tarnax is like, oh shit, I knew I forgot something. All right, the dungeons are now filled with monsters that are tasty. And they're like, yeah, thanks, jackass. Now we have to risk our lives to get food. That is the plot of the upcoming food dungeon show.
What about the big stone watcher dudes that are all mad at us? What's with them?
Oh, are you talking about Xenon?
Yeah, when we touch the things.
Okay, so imagine when the god of time died, that time still exists, right? Now time is an arrow rather than something that can be bent easily. The crystals act as the memory of this planet, the prime material plane that surrounds it. And so the crystals kind of pull in all information that's ever happened and act as a repository for that. But they're dangerous. If you get too close to them, they suck you in forever and essentially delete you from the timeline. Xenon is essentially the manifestation of all knowledge of all history. And every time you guys changed history, you were basically like, haha, your job sucks, idiot. Because you were changing things, so he was like, oh, okay, all right, well, this is how the world works now. And so every time you died, you were basically just pissing this guy off.
Nice.
He's not sentient in the way that a human would be. He's basically like the planet sleeping, just being like, hey, stop fucking around. Guys, hey, you don't want to wake me up, all right? I'm really mad. Stop messing with time. Stop it.
All right, if you do this another million times, I'm going to be really angry.
There's a question as to who cursed the lady from the crappy inn who couldn't see dwarves. I don't know. That was randomly generated, but it was funny.
That was
Yeah,
good.
it's funny, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more, but like you've obviously done a lot more world gen than we have world explored. So
That's usually the case.
There was a question as to if you guys have tried to kill him. I mean, I would have thought of him as like in Kingdom Hearts, there was always like a secret final boss that you could face that was way harder than the actual final boss. That would be like trying to kill Xenon. You would have to have already been powerful enough to end the game to fight him.
like the what was it? The like Chimera with 18 health bars that you don't even know if you're hurting.
Yeah.
In the arena thing.
Yeah, the Hydra. Yep, I know.
So
Fighting Sephiroth.
when it comes to our morality and stuff like that, because increasingly we got more and more evil, I would say. Well, not
Until
evil,
the
but
end, we
like-
started to turn it around. We were being nice until we
But
killed
there
all
were-
those guys.
There were times where I was just like, what would happen if we just walked into this town and just like wiped it off the face of the planet?
We did
Like-
nuke an entire dungeon.
Yeah. But that was not because we intentionally decided to do that. Like, I had no idea that. Honestly, I thought it would just be an explosion down below.
Yeah,
I
you
just
guys
think
Dave
it would be
Chappelle
like
that. You were like, I didn't know I couldn't do that, officer. I did know I couldn't do that.
Yeah. So it was. I'm interested to know, like, what would have the ramifications been if, like, we just
None.
decided one life would just like, well, let's just go on the GTA, 5-star adventure where we try and get all the cops on us. sort of
So there would be no ramifications beyond there are specific spells and abilities like legendary monsters. Occasionally, like if you enter certain monsters' lairs and you're evil, they deal more damage to you than normal, or they have a better chance. If you're slain by, I think it's a specter, and you're not evil, you also become a specter. Maybe it's called a shadow or something. And those are the only ways that morality would have mattered in this game. The gods didn't care about your actions. They only cared about being free of your ability.
Right, yeah.
As long as you were looping things, they could never press forward, and they couldn't outrightly kill you, so they just needed to convince you to kill Stalvin Black, which would then allow them to go back to being gods.
There was a point in the early beginning of the games where Kelly was the only magical character in the group, and he was offered lordship if he signed a stone.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, the binding stones.
Was that binding stone like...
It would have followed you through... Yes, but using that stone to swear an oath of loyalty to the king would have been a massive mistake.
Yeah, I'm glad I did not do that. I thought about that real hard, by the way, Arthur. I thought about that so fucking hard. And I was like, I don't know, man. That doesn't sound right. How would that have, like, how that would have helped, though? Like, what, like he would have called upon me or something in death? Or, like, how I don't understand how that would have worked. Because on the surface level, it doesn't seem like much. But to someone who transcends time and space, like, being bound like that seems strange.
It does, which is why you shouldn't use it. So those were Sarkors. And they were specifically... So I had written in that there was a situation where someone had used it in the past to force themselves to do something. Like, they used it to say that they would stop at nothing to kill the king. And by doing so, they then immediately moved to kill the king at the physical limit of their abilities. Right? There was no retreat from that point on. They would do nothing but attempt to kill the king. And since they were in the same room as the king, it meant that they were gonna just, like, run up to him and stab him to death. And, you know, like, they got stabbed by some guards, and then they dragged themselves along, and, you know, like, at that point, the king was like, well, we should never let anybody use this again unless we give them a very specific thing to say, which is why the Oath of Loyalty was so important. And why it was so specifically worded. Because if you had gone up to it and said something really dumb, like, I don't know, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life searching for the lost treasure of Akuabi, well, guess what? You better hope that treasure exists.
Your life ends now.
Yeah.
I will find out who is Finley Longbottom.
Zonalar asked a good question, more meta than in-game stuff, but asked how he felt about how XP and stuff was handled. I gotta say, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's almost more up to the players how much XP they earn, right? Because if we spend all day fucking around the town and doing character development stuff, which is great, I love doing that stuff, you're not going to get XP.
Yeah.
It kind of... That's just my opinion on the whole, get XP.
Well,
give Arthur shit about it because that's what you're supposed to do with your DM at the end of a session.
Dungeons and Dragons.
We only got 10 XP. Fuck you, DM.
Well, like, Dungeons and Dragons started out as a game where you go into a dungeon and kill shit.
Yeah.
And that's never really... The XP system hasn't really gone there from there.
To be fair, we did go, like, 3 months without any XP.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, but also look at what we were doing during that time, though. We were doing a lot of character development, investigation type stuff, and like Drumurboy is saying, that it's that unless the DM specifically builds that in, which at least in D&D doesn't happen a whole lot. You know, they do the inspiration thing.
There are like optional milestone rules and whatever, and a lot of the adventures have like, if the adventures are on a story arc. Yeah. Then at chapter 2, everyone levels up to level X.
Yeah, I mean, for homebrew stuff, really the only thing that exists is inspiration.
XP as it's
You know, and then
or
XP
like personal quests or whatever.
No, I didn't have any problem with how XP was handled at all.
I've been told across my other D&D shows that I give out almost no XP, and people are constantly suggesting other XP models.
I don't really care.
But I want to be clear that when I start a campaign, I get the group together and ask how they want to do it.
Yeah.
Do you remember that perfect timeline we entered by the way, where we were like, okay, let's go get this experience points. We're so fucking close to this.
Oh, yeah,
And then
yeah.
it was like the perfect peaceful timeline. And we're just like, we could...
That was the one with
People
good work.
like harvesting tulips and shit, and that was it. God damn it!
That was the one where we got fucked up with the people in the Adventurers Guild.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, oh.
Yeah, that was
And then-
that was going to be one of my other questions. Like, we never really pursued the Adventurers Guild at all.
There was a lot to it. Let me tell you.
What was the end game of like Adventurers Guild?
So
Well, I ate everything related to us, so they were like, "Who are these people?"
Including the Dragonborn girl, whatever her name would be.
it depends on which timeline we're talking about, whether or not the Guildmaster was alive, or whether Stalvin Black had taken control. And the one where the Guildmaster is alive, the organization has infiltrated every major government by essentially going, oh, you seem to have a lot of orphans. They do nothing for you. We'll take them off your hands and turn them into adventurers. And then adventurers like Gleemo would retire and take up lucrative government positions, and the Guildmaster would drop in on them and be like, it's time to repay that debt that you owe. Tell us what you know, and we need you to do a couple things. And because they've been trained since a young age to always obey the guild, they would comply. Some of that training might have been reinforced by brainwashing magic.
As you do,
right.
D&D. Yeah.
So
Now explain the fishing guild, because that was the other guild that was tremendously overpowered in this game.
What was the last quest in the fishing guild?
Yeah.
all of the major industries in Magnar and in Freehold, which was questionably part of Magnar, all had guilds because that's how their economic system worked. Experts in a craft would band together in order to set the price of something in order to compete with nobles. And it became a meme for us, but that's also how business worked in the Middle Ages. So
See, I had a suspicion, Arthur, that there were gods that were like using the guild sellers to like interact with the characters, because we'd be like crawling through a dungeon, blood covered in us, and then there'd be like ahoy there, would you like some fish? It's like, what the fuck? What are you
Stop
doing?
following me, asshole.
the only god you guys came close to interacting with was Heros Lightbringer, because he was like the god of having sex all the time. So
What about the guy that Ager and I
Waka
talked
waka,
to?
motherfuckers.
Wasn't there a god, or did we talk to the god of time? Is that what it was?
you talked to Xenos, the statue, the Flava Flav robot. He's not technically a god. He is the crystallized information of all of the world's secrets.
You spent 3 years with that guy. Well,
He's in fact he's the
Gleemo
opposite of
tried
a
to-
god, because he has no internalized willpower. He's not capable of making decisions. He's only capable of
being angry.
yes.
That timeline where we isekai'd for 3 years.
Isekai. That is not even close to what that word means.
No, we went into a timeline and we're just like, what if we take this generic understanding of business and apply it to a fantasy world?
Rather than say isekai, you could say slow life or something, but not isekai. You're in the same world.
No, I like to believe it's isekai.
All right, you can call it whatever you want. That's not what it is, but sure.
What if Stalvin Black was leader of the Adventurers Guild and we did the whole shit?
I mean,
Was
at that point, imagine a cult dedicated to Stalvin Black. I mean, the lower level members were not actively aware that Stalvin Black was running the Adventurers Guild, but they were all under the same level of brainwashing magic and reinforcement of loyalty to the guild officers, who were in fact all Stalvin Black.
Which is why Dragonborn person wouldn't leave.
Correct. I mean, but that was also her job, was to run that place, and people in the capital of Magnar really did hate her for being dragon-blooded. But also because she had complete loyalty to Stalvin Black. So, I mean, the thing is, in the Stalvin Black timeline, the Adventuring Guild still work as mercenaries for the Magnaries government against Stalvin Black. They're just not very good at it somehow.
After Stalvin Black dies, Kelly becomes the leader of the guild and promotes other Dragonborn lady to like something crazy.
So if you
Vice
had
Admiral.
if you had
Yeah.
killed Stalvin Black, or in either of the endings of the game, one of you would have had to have become the new God of Time, a much weaker version of the God of Time, because you wouldn't have ultimate power. But it would have been like either you all battled to the death for it, or you all agreed to give some of your power to one version of one of you.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
So
like
it would have been the
Royale with the storm closing in.
Yes, so it would have been a Sophie's choice. Like you now have these ultimate powers. You're now as strong as gods, but one of you has to become a real god, and you must give up some of your power, or you must take it from your brothers.
Daka would have put on the white mask and did that piece fade out thing.
you had a backup plan available to
Yep.
you.
That's what Fortnite is, right? It's a Fortnite.
Yeah.
That's how Fortnite works.
Save the world. Save the world.
Mhm.
Save
Is that
the
what it
children,
is?
Save the world. Yeah.
Defeat Thanos and then watch a unreleased scene from the new Star Wars movie.
Wow.
Apparently, they're trying to like. Well, Christopher Nolan is trying to like do a screening of the entirety of Inception inside of Fortnite.
Okay, well, I'll say this. Fortnite is great, only insofar as, for many years, it has gathered all the kiddos from all the other games.
Except for Minecraft. Minecraft still got like Jesus.
The thing about Minecraft is, I don't play with other people. I just play Minecraft with myself, and I make giant superstructures and
which is fair,
lava
but
caverns.
which is fair, but hadn't they sold like 200 million copies of that game already?
Yes, they sold a lot.
So
They
like,
sold
most
enough
of-
copies for Notch to retire and become a white supremacist, I guess.
Mhm.
well, Microsoft like bought him out and then ostracized him from the company. So
Yes, that's because he's a...
He's a big
giant-
I like how he
Fucking
walks out
trash
of
fire.
nowhere and he's like, "It's me, game designer Notch, international superstar. I have the following to say about this video game." And then everyone is like, "No, Notch, you're wrong. You don't know shit. You invented Minecraft, and that's the
He didn't
entirety
even-
of
he
your
didn't even
game
invent-
design."
yeah,
Didn't even invent Minecraft. He stole it from someone else. So.
Wow, I didn't know that, but
he even gave a shout out to J.K. Rowling at the end of that.
Christ.
oh my god.
Big ups to my homie Jay Dizzle.
It just every time Notch opens his mouth, somehow his net worth drops. It's so weird. He's like the
Never
Elon Musk
enough.
of video games.
But never enough.
Well,
Let me
I've never played Minecraft. Is it fun?
You make
If you
your
can,
own fun.
if you make your own fun, then yeah. If you
Yes.
like Legos without a plan, then yeah, you'll have
Oh
fun.
Jesus! No,
I'd say that-
I would just make like a multicolored brick doorway that wouldn't fit the Lego door, and I'd just give up.
yeah, Minecraft isn't for you.
All right.
Arthur, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you have any? Is there any unresolved questions that you have for the players for this?
Not
game?
really. No. I feel like you guys were pretty forward with where you guys were going.
Mhm.
Why, do you have something you want to share? Some dark secret, Kelly?
No,
I mean,
no.
the thing is, like, recently Kelly has been on a completely wild path. She's like, all right, maybe I will become the Queen of Hell. I don't know. Fuck.
Well, her one weakness is that incubus. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Like
Yeah, but now
that's-
he's under your theoretical
Yeah,
control.
That role where you're dominated the incubus.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so disappointed that this game is ending, because that it was
Yeah.
like the one opportunity I had to turn. The only weakness that I was like, okay, this has to be Kelly's main only weakness, because it's so interesting as a character to have this thing. And then all of a sudden I got an opportunity to like fucking, reverse card that shit. And then we're here at this point.
But
And
could
so-
you imagine? Could you imagine Kelly as a villain in somebody else's campaign? a fallen
Absolutely.
paladin, Queen of Hell campaign arc ending, and in order to face her, you first have to kill her incubus that she's forever bound her soul to. So you gotta like kill the sub boss before you go face the final boss. Kelly is the campaign arc level 17. Everybody goes to fight her. Level 1 is your village gets raided by somebody as a result of the actions of one of her machinations. You know, her evil devils on the material plane displace some other bad guys, and they raid your village by accident. And then the whole campaign is just working up to get revenge on the Queen of Hell.
The cool thing about RPGs.
All the while, Kelly is basically seducing the party with like fucking
okay
and stuff like that. You know, like power and whatnot. And
who's the
trying to,
Ravenloft guy? The evil vampire?
God, not Zarevich.
Strahd or whatever.
Yeah, Strahd. Yeah, you're Strahding them the whole time.
Yeah.
Your armor is designed by Giger.
And
you send them a fruit basket telling them that these apples are just as juicy as your butt.
What? I don't remember that.
Sincerely, Queen of Hell.
Is that what the note said when the dude sent the count the apples?
Nah, basically, what would happen is like they show up and they're like, "Hey, man, listen, I got pancakes," and I would have been like, "All right."
Wow, Helltaker, really? Okay.
The cool thing about RPGs though is like,
All it
Dave,
takes.
those moments will happen again in their Cyberpunk 2020 game, and they'll be just as cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But you know, this is the. I mean, I've played role playing games a lot, and this is the longest time I've sat down with a D&D game. So, in all honesty, it's kind of very difficult to walk away from it. I will say that much.
But the memories last with you. Like I still remember in our fucking Deadlands game, lighting up a whole bunch of dynamite and jumping into a giant spider.
What?
Oh.
There was a giant spider that was like thrashing around and like it had a giant mouth, and my character I thought couldn't die. There was like some weird something.
Yeah, he was that I forget what it was called, some sort of ghost cowboy thing, or whatever the fuck.
So I ran and jumped into a spider with another party member who was also couldn't die stuff, and then we both exploded, killed the spider, did it.
Was that the one? Was I a preacher in that game or?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that last time because like I said last time we hadn't played very much.
Yeah, but
like,
no, we did the Deadlands.
We just played that. Yeah.
I think every Western game ends with someone having a bad bout with dynamite.
Yeah. Well, it didn't end there. Like we kept going, but
or at least has that moment where some character, you know, either on purpose or because they fumbled, suddenly blows themselves up.
This was entirely on purpose, but like it's just those moments always like happen and they always stick with you. So I'm sure there will be more.
So people are talking to me about Altuve, Demetrion, and stuff like that. I mean, like, yes, technically that was longer, but that was not D&D. That was Graham custom baby
system. Yeah.
That was definitely like, okay, so Dave, you broke your arm and you can't use your arm for a whole year in game, and each episode is like a day long, and I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, we played that game for almost 2 years, man.
Yeah, no, it was insane. But that was definitely not Dungeons and Dragons.
That was my Ansel was my character. I was a ranger.
Yeah.
Wreckage was he was talking in the tin can, which was amazing. What was his character's name? Always wearing the helmet. He's like, hello, and all that shit.
I don't remember. It was like
Fantastic.
the first. It was pretty much one of the earlier games that I streamed. So we played that for a very long time. Yeah. Played that for a very long time. But and then also the one that we did with Graham again, the where you were fuck, what was his name? the
Hollow
Oh,
Earth.
Gags,
no,
the
the
gnome.
gnome, the halfling that was always smaller and smaller every time.
That was a gnome that kept getting small. That was you, me, and Sheepdog, and
Oh, God.
Graham was
Damn.
DMing that. Yeah.
That game was so dumb. It was just like, all right, I lube
So
up the gnome and I throw him through the keyhole.
So fucking funny.
Lube up the gnome is a hell of a line.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, I think they got to a point where, like, it's not that I didn't care. Like, I had a blast playing that character, and most people know me from that character, I think. But like, it was so ridiculous. Like, and the running joke was that I couldn't die, and it literally, like, that character could not fucking die. And I remember when he finally got killed off. Like, people lost their goddamn minds. Like, even Graham tried to make it where I somehow survived, and my rolls were so shitty that night that there was just nothing. He was like, "There's nothing I can do. You're fucking dead."
Yeah, that's the same game where I fell off a fucking mountain as a half orc and lived because of the fucking come back at 1 HP thing.
Does that still work if you surpass your own HP in damage?
No, if you die from massive damage is an optional rule, but if your GM is running it, massive damage does not allow half orc to come back or an orc, because orcs have that ability, but they can do it infinite. So
there was
that nega gags, the evil gags was fucking just oh my god.
Okay, so Arthur, you might like this because it started off as like semi cooking eating the monsters in a dungeon, but then it just became
it went off the rail. As soon as I got thrown into a pit and you threw your sword to stab me into the side of the wall to keep me from falling 1,500 feet, like, that's just where it stopped. That's where it went in a complete, and like you could just hear Graham just go, "Well,
that's amazing."
Here we go.
He embraced it at that point.
Oh yeah, he totally embraced it. He loved it. But
good.
Yeah, I think it was I was trying to catch the sword as you threw it, and it went into the wall. But my roll was so terrible that it just went through my arm and stabbed.
My roll was great. Your roll was bad.
Shit. It was always shit. My rolls were always shit.
Anyway, I think we need to get back on point here.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I'm gonna have a lot of nostalgia for this game because of the fact that it's the longest time I've played as one character, right? Like, there's a lot of things in there, so I don't know. Arthur, I think you did a fantastic job with this game.
Thank you.
I think in all,
I'd say that this is a game, besides BattleTech, it's probably the game that I've prepared the most for. Not just because it's my longest running game, but because I wanted to be like, look at all this cool stuff we can do. And then we did it. I mean, we did a whole lot. We didn't do all of the cool stuff, but we did a lot of cool stuff. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah. There's some really cool moments in this game for sure, and it's we have to move on. That's just the reality of everything that happens here. But I hope we can bring
the concept. The concept really drew me into. I mean, when Dave first introduced me to Arthur. And the idea of the game was basically like you die and restart kind of thing. I was like, well, shit, I've never done anything like that before outside of like a video game. So I was like, that sounds pretty fucking cool. Sign me up.
And then like the Majora's Mask parallel kind of thing where time keeps on going and you keep on getting more screwed until whatever happens. You're muted there.
Yeah, sorry. What I said was after Winter's Edge, I wanted to do something really big but different than just kingdom building. And, I was just watching some Twitch streams with Majora's Mask, and I was like, let's do this, but D&D. Speed running an entire campaign.
I feel like that was like a kind of similar sentiment to a lot of people that was running D&D, because like Stephen Lumpkin and the Swords Fall thing, that's also the same kind of deal with the Dark Souls twist. Like, dying is a part of the mechanics of Dark Souls, as is their campaign there. As is sort of ours, but ours is more like a safety net than an actual mechanic.
I mean, D&D is pretty lethal. Like if you think about it, because do you remember the first couple episodes of this game? We got fucking rocked. We got rocked so hard.
I mean,
I think we died every week for like the first 3-4 weeks.
I think it took you a couple of weeks to die, but then you started dying constantly.
Well, because we went to go fight our first worm with a Y, and that's when we kept dying.
Right. We did that, and then we got whatever it was. We died, and then immediately woke up, and then got crushed by ice magic from Swamp Man.
It was when I first got the flame tongue longsword from the we fought that dude.
Yeah.
That was a fucking fight, man. The plan that worked out against all
I'm never gonna forget that plan. That was
Finley making friends with everyone and then like throwing a flashbang in that guy's face.
That was a hell of a plan, and your roles really worked out.
Oh
yeah. If the roles hadn't worked out, I would have been like, remember that dumb fucking plan?
Yeah. But they did. And now it's infamous.
Holy shit.
There's a question of if I'm going to be inserting Easter eggs that the parties can find to reference other campaigns. Yes, I've done this in the past. There'll almost certainly be a comic or a movie or a TV series.
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoon about New
Kelly.
Game Plus. Yeah.
It's WandaVision, but with Kelly and the Incubus.
I can't believe they won't release that series.
What? Are they not releasing WandaVision?
Disney Plus haven't they been holding all of the Marvel series for the duration of the corona?
Oh,
I mean,
fuck,
they were done with Falcon and Captain America. It's ready to go. They're just not releasing it. It's been ready to go for like 4 months.
I guess if there's tie-ins to like Black Widow and like the next phase of Marvel movies, then I can understand. But
sure, but I want it now.
All right.
If this much prep went into planning this campaign, do I have a lot prepared for 2020? All right, so that answer's complicated because I run a Patreon game once a month for the Patreon people, and they recently ended their Star Wars game, and it sounds like they would also like to play a Cyberpunk 2020 game. So I'm redoubling my efforts to prepare for it. So far, I've got a couple of pages of notes. I got a pretty good idea of what Redline City is going to look like. I'm working on pre-gens tonight. I would say I've probably done like 8 hours of prep so far, and I've listened to maybe 20 hours of synthwave and Zen, Sutra, cyber music, and Asian hip hop lo-fi. And
so let me ask you this real quick. Is this Dante going to be like the Dante they got on the helicopter at the end of Night City season 1?
Yes, so this Dante is going to be Dante, president of I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but basically president of several South American and Central American countries, trying to be a legitimate world leader enough that he can get an embassy on the space station, on the Crystal Palace. And that's his plot line is, take me seriously, I'm a real dictator. I want to go to space. That is his plot line. When he has you guys running around doing things, he's busy trying to become a real world leader and be respected.
That is fucking fantastic. So basically, if you want to see that character, go watch Night City season 1.
Yeah, please do.
Because I think you'll get a pretty good idea of what Arthur's going to do.
If you want to get an idea of what Dante Fierro is right, just look back a few days ago of when a certain president gassed a whole crowd of people to have a photo op with a Bible awkwardly in front of the church.
Listen, I have never said anywhere otherwise. When I started Dante Fierro, he was literally a Donald Trump parody.
Yep.
And the thing is, it has become the reality. Donald Trump has become Dante Fierro rather than the other way around.
Can our game be like the most wholesome shit? Because like, if everything you write comes true, we need some help.
No, I mean, Mike Pondsmith just quoted on that a couple of days ago when he said Cyberpunk 2020 was meant to be a warning, not a guidebook.
Yep. Dude, what a world.
What a world. Okay.
Are you asking
Well,
about this crew? These guys are all going to be joining the Cyberpunk 2020 game. Next week, we're going to do it privately, and we'll see if I can get it on Patreon to reward the Patreon people. But in 2 weeks, if everything goes well, we'll be sitting down with Spootnik's wife and all these guys and saying, what kind of characters are we going to play? What kind of missions are we going to do? Obviously,
And
you
already
work for Dante, but...
And most of us already have like a baseline, like high concept kind of version of that.
Yeah.
And we did actually order the paperback, or not paper, well, physical version of the rule book, just because.
Oh, cool.
Both myself and my wife, Jillian.
They should be quite cheap these days.
It was $35.
Wow, that's like how much it was back in the day.
Yeah.
It used to be hundreds of dollars to get one of those.
They did a big reprint of it, so it dropped back down. Yeah. So we're gonna this weekend certainly go through and kind of dig into it, and she's great at RPing. She actually years ago back in the 90s used to run like RP chat boards and stuff like that, and she would like host them from her computer and do all this kind of shit. So she loves doing it. We did a D&D campaign that I DM'd at my house with our friends and everything, and she had a blast doing that. And after we'd done that, she had started kind of hinting like, I'd love to be on a show. So I asked the crew and they approved, so I think it should be fun.
Yeah, dude, more than merrier.
I don't know if she's ready for our bromance, Spooty. Like I don't know.
I mean, she knows a little bit about it. I talk to her about you all the time, Dave.
Oh my god!
Wow. Okay. Any closing thoughts, remarks, Glimo? You got anything?
Nope, just thanks for having me on, and
thanks for sitting here through this. There'll be more to do next week with Cyberpunk 2020.
Thanks for the fungin.
I did see some people in chat saying they want a Fungin t-shirt, so get on Redbubble, go on Fiverr, hire an artist, go to Redbubble, sell that shit.
I just closed my merch store, actually. I shut it down because it all had Atomic and Sid Alpha stuff in it, and I was like, do I want to sort through the legality of this, or do I want to just start over?
Hey, Dante Fierro merchandise.
Wow.
It's okay, bro. I'm okay with you doing that.
That's fine because he's my intellectual property, so you couldn't stop me from doing it anyway. Rad drew the Dante Fierro. He's basically just looks like me, but with a Santa Claus hat and a keffiyeh.
Also, I think your original character design was that guy, and I don't think you can make him.
Yeah,
look
that.
Like him. I forget what his name is, but like.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, Dante is a very shitty person, so.
Whenever I see that actor, like in The Good Place or anything like that, I'm just like, man, Arthur ruined this actor for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Which actor?
The guy who plays Derek in The Good Place.
Oh.
That's Dante Fierro's original artwork, but then someone made a better Dante Fierro, and I was like, that's the new canon Dante Fierro. The actor's name is Jason Mantzoukas. I'm sorry, I'm fucking butchering this name real bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
If Dante doesn't make a cameo, all right, there's no way he can't. The party works for Dante in our upcoming game.
He's integral to the story, Fierro.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally a spiritual successor to Night City, which is fucking fantastic.
Takes place in 2021 with tired old Dante and all of his one-of-a-kind prayer rugs, which now smell like dog pee. No one can make more of these prayer rugs because the Middle East doesn't exist anymore.
Is your entire foundation of wealth for Dante Fierro built on the armor suit customization business that you made?
Yes, he sells Metal Gears to rich people.
Metal Gears with like pimped out Metal Gears,
Yeah.
not just like
Iron
regular
Man.
Metal Gears. Oh my god.
Underlit with neon,
But
blinding anyone underneath them.
now he's a multinational. I think what he does is he get licenses to make cheaper, shittier versions of good guns. You know, people are like, man, I could get that Deagle knockoff from Dante Fierro Firearms. You know, it's like $200 cheaper, but maybe it'll jam. But it'll look good.
Dante Fierro is the soldier boy of video game consoles.
Wow.
It's like the slightly more militarized, boring company with a flamethrower, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like him wanting to go to space and creating a country just so that he can make a space force is like
Space
fucking
Embassy. So
hilarious.
he wants to be recognized as a real man. Okay?
A real boy.
I should be taken seriously.
If the end game of this new Cyberpunk game is us going to space, Arthur, I'm fucking in. Like,
Just
I'm
let me just start by
100% in.
reminding you that in the 2020 universe, bringing a gun to space carries with it a death penalty. So you're not allowed to fire a gun in space because not only will you kill everyone in the room that you're firing it in, but it will continue firing repeatedly in an orbit around the Earth until it hits the station again.
That's why you get around that legalese by making weapons that technically aren't guns. and
Okay,
bringing
that's
them
fine.
to space.
As long as look, I'm not saying space is the end game of it, but if it is the end game, you should be prepared to not have guns.
That's why it's laser weapons in space, not projectile weapons in
Wow,
space.
there you go.
Imagine creating a martial arts in Cyberpunk 2020 that is entirely used only in space.
Krav
That is a
Maga.
possibility.
If you want to know more about the game, you can go to chat with Cass on my Discord, look in Cyberpunk 2020 for the 2020 plus chat, and look at pinned images. Because we've got the old Night City game with Dante Fierro's there. We've got How to Play is pinned in there. We've got musical inspiration. We got media that you can watch specifically for me. When Dave said that he wanted to play a media, my thought was Leverage Season 2, Episode 5. It's not called The Hunt for the Truth. I think it's called 3 Days of Hunter. But it's about a woman who runs a show called The Hunt for the Truth, who's like a social media pop-up artist who shows up and is like, shocking interview! General! Where are the weapons of mass destruction stored? I
was
have
thinking
all
more
of the
like-
notes.
That's really effective journalism.
Yes,
I was thinking,
it doesn't work for
more
her.
like the interview starring Seth Rogen and
Oh
Jesus.
wow, it's been a while. That's the one that got stolen by the Korean hackers, right, or something
Yes.
like that. I
Yes,
remember
and they
that.
released
He
it
honey
for
dicked
free.
you, bro.
Yeah.
But I was honey dicking him.
All right, let's do our final outros. Drumurboy, where are you?
I was DACA. I'm still Drumurboy. If you still don't know that I make music, I still don't know how to help you.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be pretty tough to not know that.
Still writing for Echoes of Eternity. If you didn't catch the news, roleplay is over as soon as Echoes of Eternity, their Star Wars show, is like the wrap up. There's not like time limit on that, but I'll be writing for that. And then when that's over, roleplay is over. And then I'll
End
be
of the fucking
moving.
era.
Yeah. Then I'll be moving over more full time to Nerd or Die, working with them. And finally get these half dozen projects off the back burner and actually make more personal music. I've got like fucking four EPs worth of music ready to go. I just need to like actually
Nice.
finish it.
You
But,
like
like-
those artists that go onto like fucking what is it? The Genius site, and there's like, yeah, I've got like 7 EPs of music I'm sitting on right now, and it's just like,
Yeah, well, like they're not finished enough to be released, and a lot of them are like they're not in the complete state that I want them to be in. But when I have more time, I'll be making more of them. I have like a to-do list of shit to make. Like one of them, the things on there, it's gonna be farther in the future, but I want to make an intro, like a concept album of 90s cartoon intros. Like, you know, like the things like Biker Mice from Mars and Streak Sharks, that style of music, but like a 5 or 6 song EP
Danger
of just
Mouse.
like, yeah, that kind of music, like the clearly 80s hair metal, but they can't get a record deal anymore, so they're just shredding solos on Saturday morning cartoon intros. That's gonna be it eventually. And then like I've got a collaboration with a dude in Australia named Tiasu. He mostly does chip music, and then I'm bringing my kind of guitar and orchestral stuff to him. And we're doing a thing, and I'm also doing a Super Nintendo style EP with like I've got 6 songs done for it already. I just need a couple more to like make it a comfortable runtime. I think AP might have most of those actually, or at least 3 of them. 3 of them were from the Patreon. I just kind of like cut them up and made them new. But yeah, you can check me out on Spotify for all the new music that's going to be coming out in the next little while. Roleplay Radio, that's where all the roleplay music will live. Continuing on unless I cancel my distributor subscription. And then also the Bandcamp is where that stuff will live more permanently. And all that money comes to me. JP doesn't see any of that. So if you have a problem supporting JP for any reason, it doesn't go to him. It goes to me. Yeah, and keep an eye on my Twitter for Nerd Eye news after my roleplay run has ended. Thanks for watching. See you in 2020.
Technically, 2020 plus takes place in 2021.
Fuck!
I mean, it's in the name of the show. You had to have anticipated that.
Yeah, is every episode a plus like every cycle?
No.
Oh.
It's just a shitty programmer joke.
All right.
We're not stuck.
So
in
you
it.
wake up in you wake up in the mountain, which is a which is a coffin hotel.
Yeah, the mountain is like a capsule hotel.
Oh, now I'm actually, that's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, no, it has to be. Yeah.
All the ceiling tiles are like tuned to a Jed channel, you know.
And when you walk in there, they give you these white robes that you can sleep in.
Yeah.
There was a question in chat about motorcycles. Listen, I had to learn so much about motorcycles over the last week for this show because I want nomads to be a potential thing in it, and I don't know if Spootnik's wife is going to play a nomad, but I want nomads to be a huge faction in Redline City. So
Did
I've
you
got all
know
these.
that motorcycles have 2 wheels?
There are motorcycles that have more than 2 wheels. So get dunked
What?
on.
There are motorcycles that have 3 wheels and a nuclear explosion device in them.
Those are called trikes.
Okay. They're still technically a motorcycle.
That's so Raven.
Well, all right. I don't know what to do with that. I had to learn a lot about motorcycles, is what I have to say. I had to learn the difference between how do I identify a sport bike, a standard bike, dual sport, cruiser, retro, a touring, scooter, adventure touring, so I've had to learn about all these things and whether it leans you back or forward, or the cafe racer attempts to remove as much weight as possible while still maintaining the original aesthetic, and which ones are better for long trips and which ones are crotch rockets that are better for on street. And you know what? If you want to add nomads in your game, you gotta know this shit, because you can't be there being like, yeah, this guy's the big boss of the whole thing and he uses a cafe racer. And I'm no, he doesn't. He's the big boss. He uses a fucking massive ass touring
Imagine
bike.
the coolest motorcycle you can.
All right, John Harper.
Arthur, if this new city of yours isn't just fucking surrounded by empty, unabandoned, like half-built freeways, I don't know what to say.
There are 3 massive 12-lane highways in the north, south, and west that are run by the nomads. They're basically like mafia transporters. You have to pay them to move your cargo in and out of the city, or they run you off the road and steal all your shit.
Nice.
That's
what
how
I
they
wanna
live
see.
their life. Yeah. Don't worry.
Make
I'm
it
preparing
road
it.
rash.
Even better, I made the whole city Final Fantasy VII. There's a whole second city underneath the city. It's built on top of a plate, and the undercity is where all the gangs and all the shitty stuff, and it's always raining there because of all of the water and sewage that drips down from the plate above them. So all the rich people live up top in an Outer Worlds level place, and all the shitty people live in the bottom in an Outer Worlds level place.
Rain.
Yeah,
And
they
then-
get the poop rain.
And then the
Chocolate rain.
and then the government
That's not what that song's about, but okay.
I know.
and then the government decides to drop a plate on them.
Oh, the
yes, the
government.
poop rain is coming early today.
Yeah,
There's a
look,
shitstorm coming.
I've been designing the city.
Oh my god! Wow. Broke Dave.
Yeah.
A literal shitstorm.
I mean, it wouldn't rain down there otherwise, so.
A poofoon.
Nope, we're done with this. Glimo, who were you? Well, you were never on this show, but who
Chance
are
of
you?
precipitation today is number 2.
Apparently, I ran a fungin, so
That's true, but the actual you, who are you?
the actual me, I'm Glimo. I, in addition to being on the new show, guest on some of Arthur's other stuff, and I run a Call of Cthulhu Massive Nyarlathotep campaign every other Sunday. Twitch.tv/Glimo. Feel free to find us and give us a watch.
I just released the episodes of, what was the Cthulhu board game we did together?
Eldritch Horror.
Yep, I released that today, so.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Spootnik, who were you on this show?
I was Finley Longbottom, and
Who was Finley Longbottom?
Question we never will find out.
no one will ever know. Tune into Cyberpunk 2020
To find out. Yeah, there you go.
You can find me on all things social media at Spootnik_71, and on Twitch I am Spooty McTootie, because as we all may or may not know, Cambodia stole my old Twitch channel.
It's true.
I still don't know why the fuck they did that.
I don't know.
They tried to sell shoes on it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. My Twitter got invaded by people selling shoes. It was weird. It was a very
You had,
strange
like-
time in my life.
You had like a handful of people.
Whatever. But no, I had a blast on this show. Thanks, Dave, for thinking of me when Arthur was looking for folks to play. Thanks,
That's the
Arthur, for
story.
letting me play.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
And thanks to everyone that watched and hopefully enjoyed the show, because I know that I had a good time doing it, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, we just gotta wait until we're 4 years into our 2020 campaign.
That's right.
You've invented a machine god and then killed it.
That's right.
The last scene is
had
you floating
several-
off into space in a spacesuit singing "Who is Finley Longbottom?" as your oxygen supply runs low.
The machine god has asked what its purpose is. You're like,
Yeah.
you get the butter.
Oh God.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned Blades in the Dark, AP. Just really
Did.
quick, this is connecting my brain. There's a bundle going on right now on itch.io benefiting the whole
Yeah, my friend
Black Lives
made that
Matter and
one.
stuff. Yeah. There's like, it's incredible. It's like 1,500 games or some shit for $10. Blades in the Dark is in there.
Trying to hit $5 million US.
Yeah, I just bought
And
it
they're
this
pretty
afternoon.
close.
I just bought it
Yeah.
this afternoon because it's got a whole bunch of cool games. Like some of them are game jam games, so they're like 20-minute experiences, but there's 1,500 games, and a lot of them are like, there's Night of the Woods in there. I just started playing Overland this afternoon, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. There's also a shitload of tabletop role playing game assets that you can use in there for commercial
I picked
stuff
it up.
as well.
There's assets, there's Blades in the Dark, the game. There's the first edition of Lancer, a new mech kind of TTRPG as well as a whole bunch of other like more indie tabletop projects. So go check it out. Go to HIO. And they got I don't know what the name of the bundle is. I forget.
I have it. The name of the bundle is on my Discord.
Charity bundle, something.
It's on itch.io.
Just go to itch. You can't fucking miss it. It's made by
Bundle
the guys
for
that
racial
run
justice
Itch.
and equality. 1,000
There you go.
works. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm in on it.
It's constantly updated.
Cool.
So if you don't know about it, now you do.
What did you just do
is
to my?
also doing.
Mad props to Spanker, aka Spencer, for putting that together. He's a bro of mine. He's real cool, good dude. And yeah.
Spootnik, what did you do to my face?
I gave you a fan.
A rainbow-colored fan that covers 90% of my face. All right.
Kind of looks like you're vomiting rainbow there.
It does look like I'm vomiting rainbows.
It's
very
better than you sniffing your
Konosuba.
finger. You know.
Yeah, thank you for that. In regards to who is Finley Longbottom, if you like philosophical questions like that and time being infinite, I suggest you look up the short story The Last Question by Isaac Asimov. I think it's hosted by Princeton. If you just Google The Last Question by Isaac Asimov, you'll find it. It's only a couple of pages long, but it's pretty fucking dope.
I might actually have it in a book.
I mean, it's only it's like 4 pages long, but
Yeah, well, like I have
You had a short story collection or something.
Yeah, I have like there's like a whole bunch of anthologies of short stories that are curated by Asimov and another sci-fi writer that I can never remember the name of. But I think one of the Asimov stories are in that book. I don't know where it is. I can't see past my monitor to my bookshelf. But
Isaac Asimov had a lot of science fiction stories, and many of them were quite short.
Is that the guy that wrote Silo? Or is it, am I thinking of someone
he
else?
wrote Foundation.
He wrote iRobot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. It's probably not the same.
And a
guy,
whole lot of other stuff. All those 3 laws of robotics are all based off of him. And in fact, there were more than 3 laws of robotics, because he was like, haha, gotcha, motherfuckers. There's more than 3. There's a 0th law.
Yeah, I've been trying to find like a full collection of Foundation stuff to read through.
Ooh, that's tough. Also, reading Foundation can be tough.
Yeah, they had like a half collection at my local used bookstore. That's where I buy like the 50s and 60s short sci-fi that like never got published. Well, it got published in magazines, but it doesn't exist anymore anywhere. So those are kind of cool.
Yeah, if you Google The Last Question, it's literally the first link that comes up is the Princeton.
Yeah,
link.
okay.
The whole thing. It's
Listen,
really good.
If you get into reading the Foundation series, you have to get past the mule, and if you can do that, you'll be okay. Probably. A little weird. Mule is pretty fucking weird. Dave, I know you as Henley. Who were you?
Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with us on this wild ride. I played Kelly, the half-orc man, lady, dragonborn, fighter, paladin combination, also warlock
Butt
in
toucher.
there as well. Yeah, butt toucher extraordinaire. Yeah. But yeah, no, this has been a fucking amazing experience, and I'm super jazzed to get started with Cyberpunk. If you don't know, I GM for Arthur, and now it's his turn to GM for me when it comes to Cyberpunk. So it'll
It's time
be.
to drop a car on his favorite NPCs.
I don't think I'll do that to Arthur. I think I'm more interested in exploring the world of Cyberpunk as a player than I am on getting sweet revenge on Arthur. But I don't know. Like, yeah, if you want to go check out my shit, in case you don't know already, I make adult video games and normal video games. You can find the adult stuff over at Kinky Fridays on Twitter. We're about to release our first game in early access on Steam, like next month. So fairly close. We're like less than 5 weeks away from that shit, and that'll be fun. And I do another game stuff called No Gravity Games, and we release tons of stuff on the Nintendo Switch, lots and lots of stuff. So you can go check that out. You can also check out all of my stuff at youtube.com/Henley. I don't really do streaming anymore. It's just not on the cards for me these days. It just takes too much time. I leave that up to the professionals like Arthur. I just come for the mad lols and the good times. So
I don't know that anyone would accuse me of being a professional.
I mean, the first conversation we ever had together was about how to do this more professionally. So
Sure, I agree with that.
yeah.
That happened.
And then, like the card game, nothing happened with it.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, no, we made the Campaigners Guild together, and
Then it fell
like,
apart.
everyone was way too fucking selfish back then.
I mean, someone called Blubberknot the Blubberknot, and I think that was the first step downhill.
Yeah.
Certainly it wasn't the
Yeah,
only step downhill, but insulting each other was a great first step.
Yeah. It was just like everyone was too self-focused to make it work as a team. So it is what it is. It's whatever. So. Man, campaign is good. I haven't thought about that in a fucking.
Is that when Twitch Teams was still a thing?
Yes.
Yep.
Before they got community or squad streaming and all that. Yeah.
Yep. I was the first person in that group to be partnered. And I was the one that was able to put together a team because you had to be partnered back then to put a team together. And we got together and we're like, yo, let's fucking support the shit out of each other, guys. Let's raise all levels. We did not, because everyone was way
I was
too
so
fucking selfish to do
confused.
shit.
It only lasted for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, hey, let's do stuff. And people were like, I'm leaving now. And I'm like, why? And they're like, we never do anything. And I'm like, it's been 2 weeks.
Like everyone was expecting everyone else to give them all of their audience.
Yeah.
And it was like, look.
And then Twitch was like, this RPG thing, we don't want to support this anymore.
That's true. I feel like that did happen at some point.
That happened to the art streamers as well, and music streamers.
I went to it happened to tabletop streamers and it happened to art, because I remember I was one of the lucky chosen people they picked for supporting for the tabletop stuff. I was put on the front page like constantly, like during Night City. It was like the peak, like the very peak of everything that was happening to me. And then Twitch was like, look, we realized this isn't making money, so we're going back to esports and shit. And it was like a fucking being dropped in the ocean with cement shoes. It was just like, yep, bye, bitch. I was like, okay. So
yep. I mean, you had to wait for JP and Critical Role to really bring that back, but
yeah.
But now it's pretty strong. There's like everyone and their uncle has a podcast and D&D show. So.
Yeah, I mean, D&D shows now you can get a dime a dozen. It's really about differentiating yourself and getting enough viewership. Yeah. I mean, now it's about who you can get on your show to bring you in viewership, I think, at the medium level.
It's either that or production value on like edited podcasts.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's totally different than Twitch streaming, but yes.
Yeah. So the thing that I would say now is that it's a supplementary piece of content that people make for their channels, rather than it being like the channel focus like it was for me.
That's my channel focus. That's why I'll always be a D- list player.
Yep.
And it's also monetizing your friendship, which we all know needs to happen in the millennial culture.
It would be monetizing is a strong word for what I pull in from Twitch.
I mean, the potential to monetize friendship.
I have to tell you that between donations and Twitch and YouTube and Patreon, I do not make enough to cover the electrical bill of running my lights and computer every month.
You want to hear about my Spotify stories?
Oh god.
I actually don't. It will fill me with sorrow.
Since 2017, I have made $300 total.
Wow.
Spotify? Wow.
From like Spotify, Apple Music, and all like.
What is
That's rough, man. I'm sorry.
Rough ballpark idea of how many plays you've had?
From Spotify that I've been paid for, you're paid like 3 or 4 months removed, like so processing time. But like I've probably been paid for about $300, 200 and something of that is from Spotify. So that's like about 50,000 plays.
Wow.
Look, here's the thing: if you had 50,000 plays on YouTube, and it was monetized at the beginning with one ad, and you had a MC or MG, whatever it is, like the advertising company on it, MCN, yeah, you would have made probably a couple of thousand.
Which is why after the roleplay stuff is done, I'm going to be like jamming more with my synthesizers, and like whatever kind of bullshit I do on my computer, I'm just going to start uploading to my YouTube account. So
that sounds fun.
Upload to YouTube, and then when you start making a little bit of money, like get some like unique cover up made for everything, and do a little bit of like effects work on it, and all of a sudden you are rolling in place. Like that's all it needs to be. They need to have that anime girl aesthetic.
Yep.
You know?
Wow.
A lot
completely
of
aware
jams,
of how to sell out to people like me.
Wow.
I
a
feel
lot of the jams.
I'm targeted in this.
there's a guitar pedal from Chase Bliss Audio called the Vintage Warp, I think, which is a vinyl and VHS style warp and warble. I can put that after my synth and do like live ambient beats to chill and study to, and just do that for Twitch and YouTube.
Drumurboy lo-fi beats.
Basically, yeah, like that pedal, the Chase Bliss pedal, is like, I think it's about $300, but it is that pretty much.
Lo-fi beats to Drumurboy too? No, we can workshop this. We can make it good. We can get a pun in here somewhere.
Drummer beats to lo-fi too.
Ooh.
I actually
Drummer beats to uwu too.
Ooh,
No,
yeah.
I actually made a meme out of that. It was lo-fi hip hop beats to puzzle and bang to. Is
Wow.
what the OST is called.
Dude,
my,
I could figure out how to program my FM synth to say uwu and then just do that.
Oh shit, dude, do it.
All right, Dave, I have a final question before we sign off. It's weighed on my mind for some time, and once this campaign is over, I'll never have a chance to ask it again. So I just need to know, are you ever really going to make Olympic Condom Simulator?
Do it.
Oh my god.
I mean, it could be a love letter to this game. It doesn't have to be a full game, you know?
That question will die the moment we stop streaming this thing right now, right? Like, I would love to. I would really love to.
I'm hearing a butt here, like a big butt.
I mean, the
Big
only
butt.
thing is
A big
the only
butt
thing
that
is I
keeps on slapping and annoying the guards.
I am really like, the only time that would actually work is if it was on an Olympic year, and the Olympic year.
Well, it
is
technically
this year.
was an Olympic year until they canceled it.
Let's say you got a whole nother year. They're doing it next year, so you have a whole nother year to like get it together.
Wait, does that mean 2025 is the new Olympic year? After
No,
this, or
they'll
is it
be
gonna-
jumping back to 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you could
And
do
the
like
winter Olympics will be 2022.
you could do like seasonal DLC with like mini games.
Oh my god.
Winter game, summer game.
Think there could be like a naughty ring toss game. I mean, think about what you're throwing the ring onto, you know? Like
Sure.
there could be all kinds of mini games.
I'll have to give it some thought, honestly. Like, because the amount of stuff I've been shown since entering the AO space has been very difficult for me to comprehend. Most people don't want. Most people, as it turns out, don't want what you think
Games?
they want.
Yeah.
They just want to sell you their ideas.
Cradling himself in the corner like, oh god, I've seen too much.
I
There's
didn't
a reason
realize
why
furries were so popular, and there were so many different ways to combine them.
Well, the
Oh
other
my
day,
God.
I actually had a guy ask me if any of the girls in my game will have.
I have to tell you, I really don't want you to end this sentence. Honestly, I feel like we could just stop here, and I would live
I'm
a more
sorry.
wholesome and clean life.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, if any of the girls had, you know, and I was like, what? No, absolutely not. So I think I lost a customer, but
I mean, if any of the girls could play ring toss.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Gotcha.
Any of the girls can go skiing, you know, like, yeah. So.
God.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this game has been great. Arthur's did a fantastic job, and I'm ready for new horizons.
Yes.
I feel good now that we've had some sort of closure to this game. Like, if we just left it off at like no more episodes, I think it would have been a disservice. So
Although there won't be, maybe I'll make like a when the 90s cartoon intro concept album happens, maybe I'll name a track Battle Juice just for
Team Battle Juice.
yeah.
Subtext cart nuts.
there won't be an album of it, but maybe one song.
That's okay. I feel like this entire campaign was worth one song. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. That's it.
What episode number did we finish on?
This is 57.
57.
Dang.
And what year did we start playing?
I think it was 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
Like
Been a
it
while.
was like in the middle, right?
All right,
Or
I'm gonna
something like
go.
that.
I'll go get the first
I
episode.
thought it was pretty like fall 2018 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I got the thing on my stream calendar. I think BattleTech 3 years is in 3 years. I don't remember.
BattleTech's been going for a while.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see if it's actually going any further, but wow, there's so many episodes. It's so hard to sort through them all. Episode 11, we're getting kind of close. Episode 1 was broadcasted on September 26, 2018.
Wow.
Sorry, say that again.
September 26th, 2018.
So like the beginning of fall.
Hmm.
So
We're
almost
pretty
hit
close
two-
to
We got close to
2 full years, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nuts.
That's it. Okay,
Alright.
stop now. No more quips.
Cool.